Yes, ma'am. Alderman Fisk. Here. Alderman Braithwaite. Here. Alderman Nguyen. Here. Alderman Wilson. Here. Alderman Holmes. Here. Alderman Tindem. Here. Alderman Grover.
Here, thank you.
8-0.
We have a quorum. Welcome to the Monday, September 19th, 2011 meeting of the Evanston City Council. First on the agenda is Mayor's public announcements. I am very happy to announce a proclamation, the Piven Theater Workshop's 40th Anniversary Day. Whereas the Piven Theater Workshop has maintained both a professional subscription theater and a nationally acclaimed actors training center for children and adults for the past 40 years. And whereas the Piven Theater Workshop works to emphasize and preserve a process of creative exploration and play that celebrates a community-oriented approach to theater training and performance rather than a pre-patterned result. And whereas the Piven Theater Workshop trains approximately 1,000 students annually, both children and adults. And whereas the Piven Theater Workshop works to make theater and the creative experience accessible to all Evanston young people by offering $30,000 worth of need-based scholarships annually to underserved and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And whereas the Piven Theater Workshop has a rich history of community outreach, maintaining programs with Chicago's Off the Street Club and through PEEP, the Piven Empowerment Through Enrichment Program, and offering classes to adults with disabilities. And now, therefore, I, Elizabeth B. Tisdall, Mayor of the City of Evanston, do hereby proclaim September 19th, 2011, as Piven Theater Workshop Day in celebration of their 40th anniversary and how the Piven Theater Workshop has enriched our community through play, wonder, and creativity. Would Evelyn Farbaugh of the Piven Board please come and accept this?
Thank you. Joyce Piven would have really liked to have been here this evening, but
You're talking to the mic.
Joyce Piven would have really liked to have been here this evening, but one of our Piven alums, Sarah Rule, she's an award-winning playwright, and she has opening night for one of her plays this evening at Victory Gardens. So that's the only thing that could keep her away. But Joyce and the workshop are really grateful for this lovely gesture and celebrating our commitment to the Evanston community for the past 40 years. Thank you.
The only other announcement I have is that on Saturday I met with 2,200 Northwestern University freshmen who were about to go into Evanston in the rain and volunteer at projects throughout the city. The ones I talked with were going in the rain to work at the Ecology Center with Bessie Rhodes students and build a better path. I'm sure the path was built as well as it could be in the rain. But I'm very grateful to all of the entering freshmen, and I think it's a wonderful, hopefully, beginning of a tradition of service. Next, City Manager, do you have presentations and announcements?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Shani Weston is here, and she'll talk in just a moment. Actually, she's coming to the podium, so she can talk right now. Following up on the mayor's comments, I would like Shani, our volunteer coordinator, to talk a little bit about what those students did at City of Evanston facilities all over the community. Okay. Shani, good evening.
Yeah. On September 18th, this past Sunday, we had Northwestern incoming freshmen that volunteered throughout the whole Evanston community, and this was part of the whole Wildcat Welcome Week that they have for their new students. But we had over 170 students that volunteered for the city of Evanston, actually, and they supported many of our city departments, such as they stickered 1,000 CFL light bulbs, they created posters for our Car Free Day, They cleaned and organized items in the public library. They picked up litter and weeds in the animal shelter, at the Hartree and Cleveland Standpipe site, at our lakefront parks, the city parking lots, the canal bank, and many of our city recreation centers. They also did a lot of yard and weeding work and laying down mulch at Church and Dodge intersection, which I encourage a lot of people to just go by and check that out. They cleaned the law library here at the Civic Center. They helped distributed Engage Evanston flyers to the community. They power washed and cleaned the residents' home. They broke down compost and garbage bin cans and labeled some of them. So the City of Evanston would like to thank these NU students, such as the group SCAPE, and many of our city staff that also participated. And despite the rain, we appreciate all of the work that they did. Thank you. And there's also, pictures are also on the Volunteer Evanston Facebook page, so check them out.
And Shani, before you sit down, while we're very grateful that Northwestern provided those students, in order to use them properly took a lot of coordination and hard work, and I want to thank Shani for her good work as our volunteer coordinator. Just another example, by having this dedicated staff person, when these kind of opportunities come along, we're in a much better position now today to maximize the use of those students or any volunteers that come along. So Shani, thank you for your good work. Next, Ron Fleckman, who is the co-chair of Citizens for Greener Evanston, is here to talk about a new initiative that they're working on. Mr. Fleckman, good evening.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, City Clerk, City Manager, and most importantly, residents of the City of Evanston. Citizens Greener Evanston is here this evening to announce the launch of a very exciting campaign. And the name of the campaign, as you see it up there, is 10,000 Neighbors, putting us in sustainability. The campaign is a collaborative effort between the City of Evanston, Citizens Greener Evanston, and Oh So We, a social media website that might just become the next Facebook. This campaign has been in the works for the last 6 months and represents hundreds of hours on the part of a very dedicated group of businesses, programmers, artists, and Evanston citizens. I'm also pleased to tell you that no city dollars have been expended. Now, if you'll bear with me, we have prepared a brief presentation for you to explain the campaign. Let's see. The community agenda. Every year, CGE puts together a community agenda. This year, that agenda consisted of 5 items. Helping to make our homes more energy efficient, and our goal is to reach out to about 40% of the households in Evanston so that each one will at least do one thing to improve their energy efficiency. Second is expanding awareness of sustainable lifestyles, and we have an educational program that puts on an event at least once a month through an event that we call Green Drinks, which is kind of a fun social educational opportunity. The first 3 we've had probably in excess of 100 people. It's held at a bar in Evanston, and people join in a very heated discussion, or not a heated discussion, but an informative discussion, and enjoy each other's company. The third is seeking innovative approaches to transportation. We have a transportation task force who works with the city in trying to integrate a combined transportation in the city, and we'll be talking more about that as the year goes on. Fourth is the one that maybe most of you aren't familiar with, and it's called Making Us All Better Consumers, and that we've adopted something called collaborative consumption, which is a fancy word for sharing, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And then finally, finding new solutions for renewable energy, and I think that speaks for itself. We have a whole task force whose purpose is to explore whatever the state of the art is that's going on around the country in renewable energies. So how are we going to organize and mobilize 10,000 neighbors? It's a pretty good question, I think. The idea is to rediscover sharing Through OSO We, which is this unbelievable dynamic social enterprise site, we will be signing people up throughout the city to join in, and they will list things on this site that they might need. You know, somebody might be doing a campaign presentation and you find you need a folding chair or a folding table. You'll be able to go onto that site and see that somebody in your community has a table that they're willing to share. Things like that, and it goes on and on. You may view these, people have things in their garages. How many people in the audience and on the panel have a power drill in their household? Right? How many use it for more than an hour a year? Okay, that's maybe 5 people. The idea is that there's no need to buy 100 power drills. You can find neighbors who have one and borrow it. What can you do? Join us at 10,000neighbors.com. Pretty simple. Post your shareables and take action through our community agenda. Personally invite your neighbors, groups, and affiliations to help build our sustainable community. What can we do? We can find solutions for energy that will be necessary for a finite world. In a finite world, we can discover innovative approaches for how we adopt an ever-changing climate. We can connect and share to build a sustainable community, and we can show how a community of neighbors can create a powerful sustainability movement. The program, tonight is the official launch of the program, and along with the program goes a series of challenges. And the first is to the City Council, the 9 wards, the 9 aldermen, and our 1 mayor. We have a competition that the ward and the aldermen who sign up the most people in their wards on a percentage basis will win a $200 prize to use with their constituents who they felt were most helpful. We have the same competition going on inside the city with our city manager being the captain, who will organize the same program with each of the city departments. The city department that signs up the most people on a percentage basis will also be given an award. We have a competition between Evanston Hospital and St. Francis Hospital. Same thing. Each hospital's task will be to sign up as many people as possible. The winner will get a plaque and an award. Same thing. District 65, all of the principals of District 65 will compete, and the school and the principal who find the most people to sign up, and this is for the adults, not the kids, will also get a plaque at their school and a monetary award. We have the most interesting challenge, I think, is one between ETHS and Rotary International. And again, the same thing. The group that gets the most number of people percentage-wise signed up will get an award. And finally, Northwestern is a major participant in that and will reach out to have all of their students be part of it. We ask the aldermen for your support. We'll be, please feel free to go on to 10,000neighbors.com. We have our own site. OSO We has its own site, and we've taken over a pretty big portion of that site. You'll be excited to see it. It won't be live probably till the end of the week. So everything I'm saying tonight is really a little bit of a tease, but just enough to kind of get you interested. And we hope you'll cooperate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Continuing our green announcements, Catherine Hurley, the Sustainable Programs Coordinator, is here to talk about Car-Free Day.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Manager Bobkowitz, City Clerk Green, and members of the Council. If you're looking for an opportunity to do something sustainable related to transportation, then look no further than this Thursday, September 22nd, which is the annual Chicagoland Car-Free Day. The City of Evanston is pleased to partner with the Active Transportation Alliance, CTA, PACE, Metra, and RTA to celebrate Chicagoland Car-Free Day. Car-Free Day is an annual opportunity to shine a spotlight on the many ways in which we can get around in our community that do not include driving, such as taking public transportation, walking, biking, rollerblading, or any other non-motorized forms of transportation. Everyone is invited to take the Car-Free Day pledge, committing your participation in walking, biking, or taking public transit at some point on Thursday. You can visit the Active Transportation website, activetrans.org/car-free-day, or on the City of Evanston website, cityofevanston.org/car-free-day, to find out how you can sign up to take the pledge. Also, the city invites all of our residents and commuters that come in and out of Evanston to join us Thursday morning for our Evanston-specific Car-Free Day pit stop. Because what would a car-free day be without having a pit stop specifically designed for people that didn't drive their cars? We will be in front of the 909 Davis building, which is right between the Davis Street L and Metro stops, and we'll be there from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., greeting commuters and thanking them for not taking their car. The event will be full of goodies, including a free distribution of a new Evanston bicycle route and parking map that's being paid for by a federal grant, as well as donated food and drinks, bike maintenance information, extra bike parking, and other giveaways. As any event does, it takes a lot of effort to organize this event, so I'd personally like to thank all the staff and all the different departments that have collaborated, as well as all of our sponsors who are supporting us on the day, including the Recyclery Collective, White Iris Yoga Therapy, Downtown Evanston, Metro Pace and CTA, Whole Foods, Argo Tea, Citizens Greener Evanston, of course, and the Evanston Bicycle Club. And the Northwestern volunteers also made posters for Car-Free Day that we will have both down at 909 Davis as well as be putting up around the community. So look for those posters as well. Looking forward to seeing you at Car-Free Day. Thanks.
And to round out, well, not actually even to round out, our next item regarding green issues is the 5th Annual Evanston Green Living Festival, which will be held this coming Saturday, the 24th of September, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Evanston Ecology Center, 2024 McCormick Boulevard. This year's theme is Alternative Energy, You Got the Power. This long-running and popular event for all things green is put on by the Evanston Environmental Association, working with the City of Evanston. Admission is free, and details are on our website, on the festival's website at evanstongreenfest.org, or you can call 311 for more information. Lastly, I'll ask Shani Weston to come up one last time and talk about our next big volunteer opportunity, also this Saturday, National Public Lands Day.
Madam Mayor, City Clerk Green, and members of the City Council, this year the City of Evanston is holding a volunteer day in support of National Public Lands Day at the Community Garden located at James Park. Volunteers will help improve the exterior of the community gardens by collecting garbage, pulling weeds, and laying mulch around the fence exterior. National Public Lands Day is the nation's largest hands-on volunteer effort to improve and enhance public lands in America. Each year, over 170,000 volunteers will help plant trees, remove trash, and build trails at public lands across the nation. This event is in support of the Let's Move Outside initiative and the National Environment Education Foundation. National Public Lands Day in Evanston will begin at 9 a.m. and will last approximately 2 hours. And we would like to thank Lemoyne Ace Hardware for volunteering to provide gardening gloves for our volunteers that day. Citizens that are interested in volunteering for this event can register online at www.cityofevanston.org/volunteer, or they can call 311 to register. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, that concludes our presentations.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizen comment. You're all welcome. Please come up. I'm going to call 4 names and be ready to speak after the person before you has spoken. First is Junad Risky, Greg Clark, Mike Vasilko, and Ryan Garton. You each have 3 minutes.
Junad Risky. A rumor came out of Saturday's budget hearing that the city will raise taxes on the general fund. Let's be clear, over the last several years, the city has raised taxes to cover the pensions. A 2 to 3% property tax increase for the city portion of the tax bill is acceptable, which translates to $1.3 million over all funds. I want to stress the term all funds. What's interesting, the $1.3 million will not even cover last year's mistakes with the yard waste stickers or the group contract increase. Also, backdoor taxation, such as adding another increase to the recent 10% increase in water bills, is not acceptable. Given the city takes $3 million out of the water fund and transfers it to the general fund. Nor is adding more fees, such as taxing landlords over $500,000, to really keep peeling paint inspectors employed. I would like the city manager to explain to us taxpayers the total budget picture here, not the operating budget. This explanation should not come at 11 p.m. on the last night before the budget is due. That is, tell us now what's going on with the total budget, the pensions, the capital, the TIFs, the water funds, the insurance funds. Add them all together, give us a complete picture for where we stand and how far we stand in the red. They call that an executive summary, but that might be an oxymoron. I recently asked a staff member what assumptions will raises be based on in the new budget. I was told 3%. Then I was told we may have to have staff work 4 days a week. I don't know if that was a joke or reality. Tonight the council is going to talk about a health clinic. This is a joke. You have over $300 million in debt here, and the city wants to cannibalize the operating funds by $2 million to take it and put it in capital. You have space in the basement of the Civic Center, which should probably almost be condemned. It would take more money than the 3-year grant to correct that space. I think this council and mayor need to face some reality. The city needs to be restructured somewhat, and that includes some of the sacred cows, such as the cuts. The 3% cuts don't make any sense in police, fire, and water department. A year ago, the city manager said, or maybe more, he solved the structural problems of the budget. I don't know if he was dreaming, but tax increases over 2 to 3%, such as 7 to 10%, are not going to be acceptable. And I just have one last comment, since we're talking green. I've been a community gardener for 15 years, and maybe Saturday on the 24th, I can have the city manager come volunteer at my garden and help me pull weeds, and we can discuss pulling weeds and city budgeting.
I'm there.
It's at McCormick, not James, though.
Thank you. Elizabeth Murtick?
My name is Elizabeth Murtick. I'm here to speak up to the item SP3, the West Oakton Committee Report. I'm a gardener at James Park. I've been a gardener for 8 years at James Park. I share that space with, I'm thinking maybe 150 other gardeners. It's a remarkable way to get out and use a few muscles, grow some edible food, grow some beautiful flowers, talk to your friends, everybody there. When you're there with other people, you become friends. You share your stories about how to keep the voles at bay and things like that. I would be very sad if the city of Evanston decided to turn that space next to the gardens into a salt dome. I think that would be a really poor decision on the part of the city.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike Vasilko, 2728 Reese Avenue at Evanston. Just quickly, I saw the ESP1 item on the agenda for setting new goals. I just didn't think there was enough explanation about all of the goals, the changes that are being proposed, both taking out and putting in. Didn't think there was enough opportunity to comment on those goals, since there's not enough information to understand some of what's being changed. And hoping I'll learn more tonight, but it's up for action, which struck me as something premature. Thanks.
Thank you. Greg Clark?
Hello, my name is Greg Clark. I live at 1720 Cleveland Street in Evanston. And it is a pleasure to be here this evening, Mayor, Alderman. I am also speaking on the item SP3 here tonight, the West Oakton Development Committee. I am a father of 2 children in grades 5th and 3rd grade who go to school here in Evanston, public school, and participate in sports, in baseball. They go to camp at Chandler, Newberger. They are members of the YMCA, so they use a lot of the community facilities that are here for their sports, for their activities outside of school, and yet still there is not sufficient practice space for them during the off-season months, the winter months, that extend here in Chicago for at least 6 months. And so I'm very much in favor of the proposed use for a indoor athletic sports facility at the closed recycling center building. To that end, we have been working on this. I am a volunteer with EBSA, the Evanston Baseball and Softball Association. And to that end, we have tried to determine and garner support for this use. And we started a petition online, and I would like to read that petition. This petition now has over 1,250 and counting online signatures from Evanston residents from every single ward in the city. And the petition says, Evanston City Council Alderman, as a resident of Evanston, I urge you to vote in favor of the proposal by EBSA and AYSO to reuse the vacant recycling center building on Oakton Street for an indoor youth sports facility. There are 4 main reasons why this is the best proposal for our community. There is huge demand for off-season indoor practice space. Parents are currently taking their kids out of Evanston to indoor facilities in other communities. This demand is exemplified by the fact that a partnership of 4 youth sports leagues have banded together to propose this use in a vacant city-owned facility. It would activate retail on the Oakton corridor. The additional traffic generated by such a use would generate sales at nearby businesses. When parents drop off their kids, they can often use this time to shop, so more money would stay in Evanston. Conservative estimates show that this traffic could drive upwards of $600,000 in sales to Evanston that is currently being spent in other communities. The EBSA-AYSO proposal comes at no cost to the city. The city is struggling financially, and the opportunity to create a community cultural asset at no cost and privately financed by EBSA and AYSO would be an enormous benefit to the city.
Greg, I need you to wrap it up, please.
Oh, very good. It would be an indoor facility for all youth. Skipping to the bottom, I entirely endorse this use and think it would be a legacy project that the children of Evanston would benefit from for many years to come, and one that I think all Evanston residents would be proud of. I encourage your vote in support of this proposal for the vacant recycling center. Thank you. Without reading all the comments, there are 1,200 signatures, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Next is Ryan Garton and Randall Main, and then Bill Blanchard.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for having me. My name is Ryan Garton. I live at 914 Asbury in the 4th Ward. Thank you, Alderman Wilson. I am the regional commissioner for Evanston AYSO Soccer, and am in strong support of SP3, the special item for tonight, being used as an indoor sports facility. Not only with the 1,200 signatures that were collected over the last few days in support of this initiative, I represent over 1,800 kids in town, all the way from 4 to 18, many of the kids you see running around town, and over 500 adult volunteers who are firmly behind this proposal. We have 2 sessions of AYSO. We have a fall session and a spring session, and we have a big gap in the middle of that session where most Evanstonians who play soccer drive to Chicago, Highland Park, Lake Forest, or otherwise. and we have no indoor facility that can handle this type of practice for kids. We're not generating, Olympic athletes here, but we are generating kids who stay out of trouble, manage their weight, build their self-esteem, and make friends. So I strongly urge you to consider our proposal and the 1,800 kids that need you to make big plans, not small plans.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Randall Main, 321 Lake Street in Evanston. I come to you with three positions, I suppose I could say. Until very recently, I was the president of Evanston Youth Lacrosse Association. I am the founder of that organization. I'm also a member of the Park and Recreation Board, and I'm also a citizen of Evanston with, until recently, small kids who played in many sports. Obviously, of course, I'm completely in favor of this proposal to have the recycle center converted into a sports center. I said this at a previous meeting when I spoke on this very same topic the first time we brought it here, that if you were to look at a map where the closest indoor facilities where our kids could play indoor sports over the winter, you would put a map up and you would put all these pins on a map, and you would see that Evanston is just about equally distant from all of them. They're all rather far, Highland Park being possibly the closest. The demand for Highland Park being the closest is so great up there locally, it's becoming difficult even for out of non-resident Highland Park kids to get into programs up there. One of our board members made a terrific statement about this facility, and that is that by kids having to travel to these faraway places, really only the kids of means get the chance to travel to those faraway places and continue to play their favorite indoor sport. In my case, I'm speaking about lacrosse. I encourage my kids to play lacrosse and other sports, but whatever the sport, indoor, outdoor, whatever, they get more opportunity indoors. The kids without the means are far less likely, in fact, probably not going to make the trip to the faraway indoor spot, and therefore they're going to miss out on that opportunity. So that is a very important point here, I think, that local facility can really add to our own culture and fabric of why we live here in Evanston. I happen to feel that this particular building may not even really fill the demand for an indoor sports facility, especially for sports like my favorite sport, and even for soccer. It is terrific that soccer and baseball have started this initiative, and I'm very proud to add lacrosse's voice to that. But I think that it's only the beginning, really. And once we do this, you'll see how the demand for this sort of facility, it still won't be met. And I think you'll see that even more might pass this way in order to solve this. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Tisdall and members of the City Council. My name is Bill Blanchard. I'm a resident at 2677 Prairie Avenue in the 7th Ward. I'm here tonight as the co-president of Evanston Baseball, as well as the proud father of 3 boys who are avid consumers of our recreational services here. This opportunity, which we strongly endorse the City Council to act on, is really a unique opportunity. And I wanted to just emphasize one perspective, and that is the collaboration that this opportunity has created. It's not only represented an opportunity to collaborate with the city in a unique public-private partnership and to build on the great relationship that we've already built with Parks and Rec and Doug Gaynor and his staff, but it also represents an opportunity to work with all of the other Evanston sports organizations that focus on developing strong youth programs. You've already heard from soccer and you've heard from lacrosse. Football's involved in it as well. We have a number of parents here and board members that are also strong supporters of this proposal. But one of the things that I wanted to emphasize is that this is not only about a small group of Evanston families that happen to have kids who are active. When you look across all of the different sports organizations that we're talking about, we touch nearly every family in Evanston. And when you wrap into that not only the kids, but also the coaches and the parents and the volunteers and the fundraising and the businesses that support us as sponsors, we really have touched nearly everybody in Evanston. The need is clear. Most of the recreational facilities that we have are either at capacity or over capacity. It's difficult to access the school facilities in D65 or D202 for our overflow. We have wonderful facilities, including James Park, which is a crown jewel on the North Shore and recognized as such. But that's only available for a limited number of months every spring and summer and the early fall. We desperately need a place where our kids can go in the off-season months, not only to develop their skills, but also to keep them in motion, to work on their wellness, and to keep developing positive relationships with other kids in the community, as well as with coaches. All of the organizations that you've talked to tonight reach into every pocket of Evanston. We offer scholarships. Evanston baseball in particular never turns away any child because of financial resources. We work hard to make sure that kids can stay involved, and that same model will apply here for the recycling center. So again, we thank you for your time and consideration and strongly urge you to support this.
Thank you. Next is Padma Rao and BK Rao.
Padma Rao, 2246 Sherman Avenue, speaking regarding the Kendall re-subdivision. My comments have been reviewed and approved by my attorney. We've been telling this council that closed-door meetings excluding the public from the public issues related to Kendall are unacceptable. Yet at the last call of the wards, Alderman Fisk said that she had more closed-door dealings with the developer, thus again excluding the taxpayers and ignoring their concerns. Why does this council permit such objectionable activities? The City Code, Section 617.6, states, existing trees shall be preserved in place wherever possible. Has the developer ever proved that it is not possible to protect every tree at Kendall? If not, why not? Why did this council ignore Section 617.6 of the City Code when it should have insisted on compliance therewith? Do you remember from high school botany what's involved in transplanting a mature tree? Why wasn't this idea presented publicly at the outset for open discussion and expert analysis? Did a competent arborist specialized in transplanting mature trees approve this scheme? If not, why not? Did anyone assess the likelihood of centuries-year-old trees surviving the trauma of transplantation? Does anyone realize that a mature tree and its root system may weigh over a ton and require intensive care to have any real hope of survival? Why not protect the trees where they stand, as mandated by the City Code? With all the talk about green initiatives, why not do the simplest Green Act by letting over 24 mature trees continue to live? In the Kendall matter, this council allowed closed-door meetings, double representation by Holland and Knight, needlessly sentencing over 24 mature trees to death, and risking pedestrians' lives with a dangerous alley. This council continues to disenfranchise the taxpayers by excluding involvement of the public in these matters of public concern. This council should stop sacrificing the taxpayers and start fulfilling its fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers. Have open hearings regarding the Kendall matter, including public discussion. Demand tree protection consistent with the City Code, and demand a safe alley configuration. Otherwise, this council will continue to be criticized regarding this matter, and the First Amendment assures the same. See you all next time.
Thank you.
BK Rao, 2246 Sherman Avenue. My comments are reviewed and approved by my attorney. Last week's Call of Words report is interesting. We heard about saving the trees at Kendall property. If those trees have voice, they will have the following comments. Really, Alderman? Which arborist suggested that trees of hundreds of years old can be simply uprooted and transplanted so easily and they will ultimately survive? Why is it that the alley cannot be made to go from Sherman to Orrington? You don't need to kill the ash tree this way. Also, the Kendall neighbors don't have to live in fear of traffic hazard? Are you really trying to save the trees from death? Or are you trying to save yourself from the mess you created for you and your colleagues? The aforementioned allegations by the trees have some basis. From the beginning of Kendall property issue, the alderman put the developer's interest first. Her talks and dealings have always been, and even now, are behind closed doors. No one knows what goes between her and the developer and his lawyer and the city's so-called lawyer. By the way, anyone forgot that the developer threatened to sue the city and hired Holland and Knight? Interestingly, neither the mayor nor the manager nor their so-called lawyer find any conflict there. Everybody remembers that Holland and Knight is also the firm that the alderman's son works for. Isn't it getting curiouser and curiouser, like Alice in the Wonderland? These days, there is a lot of talk about green this and green that. But doesn't anybody know that you cannot kill trees and then be green at the same time? Alderman of Wards 2 to 9, please pay attention to what I am asking of you. The Kendall re-subdivision is a mystery, a bad news, a nightmare, and it benefits no one in the neighborhood. It should be dissolved and redesigned such that the alley goes between Sherman and Orrington. The hearings are to be open and public. All the aldermen should work diligently on this to save the lives of those trees and protect people from traffic hazard. No more closed door meetings. I will return and return till you do what is right. Those trees at Kendall have a right to live.
Thank you. Next, Marjorie Fujara and Lolo, I apologize, Hendenen at 1100, who lives at 1100 Dobson.
Good evening. Marjorie Fujara, 343 Dewey. I signed the petition earlier today to urge the City Council to consider converting the recycling center into a facility for children in Evanston for indoor recreation. But what really got me up out of the house was my unique perspective. I'm a pediatrician at Stroger Hospital. And about 2 years ago, next month, I was involved in taking care of a 6-year-old boy who came in florid heart failure, was on life support for 2 months, all because he had complications from his morbid obesity. He barely survived. And this child changed my life, changed the way I look at children being overweight, look at food and exercise. I've never looked at it the same and have felt the need to become more actively involved in the problem, the epidemic of childhood obesity. Now, there's a lot in the news, and I know there's a video being shown tonight. If we look at national statistics, Illinois is in the middle of the pack for adult obesity rates. We rank about 24th out of 50 states. For childhood obesity, unfortunately, we rank 4th. We're behind Tennessee, Kentucky, and Georgia, and we're tied with Louisiana in 4th place. Now, the really positive note on this epidemic is that it's not rocket science. We can fix this problem really with just 2 things. And one is to address the issue of healthy eating for our children, which I think District 65 is really making a valiant attempt at. We're seeing parents cultivating urban gardens and teaching children about making healthy choices in their diet, and parents getting involved in wellness committees to change the food that's offered in cafeterias. But the other part of the equation is giving our children a safe place to play and to be active, and to give them alternatives to plugging into their iPods and their computers and cable TV. And so I would really urge you to consider that we really need to take this problem on in this state and our community. It's not a secret that children of color are more affected by this problem than our white counterparts, particularly children who are disadvantaged financially. So I strongly urge you to consider converting the recycling center to a youth recreation facility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lois Hedman at 1100 Dobson. I haven't been called Lolo since I was a kid by my mom.
Happy to oblige.
I am here, I think poor penmanship on my part. I'm here to speak in support of the redevelopment of the recycling center into a indoor athletic facility for two reasons. And I don't want to reiterate what people have said. I think it certainly is a need. I also think that somebody mentioned that James Park is a jewel of our city, and I'm a user of that, being a parent of kids. A lot of people come from outside our community to James Park, particularly for baseball and softball. And I think it's important for us to keep that park the way it is. I mean, it's just got really nice facilities. The Levy Center has been a really nice addition. And so I think that the best use of that would be, even aesthetically, above all the other things that have been mentioned, aesthetically would be to provide this indoor sports facility rather than more development that's either commercial or industrial. I also come here tonight as a gardener at the community gardens, and I would just agree with what Elizabeth had said about that's really a unique opportunity in Evanston. Hearing all the great support and efforts and initiatives towards being green, I mean, that's one thing, and I think that would also be negatively affected by something like the salt domes. And so I think the best use of that would provide the best value for the most citizens in Evanston would be to redevelop the recycling center as the indoor sports facility. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes citizen comment. Alderman Wilson, do you have a motion?
I do. I move that we recess for the purpose of reconvening as the township trustees for a special town meeting.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Clerk Green, it's all yours.
At this time, I call the meeting of the township to order. A special town meeting of public hearing and regarding fiscal year 2012 annual town budget. Notice is hereby given to the legal voters and residents of the town of Evanston in the county of Cook in the state of Illinois that a special town meeting of said town will take place on Monday, September 19, 2011, during the hour of 7 p.m. Or thereabouts. The City Council Chamber, second floor, 2100 Ridge Avenue, Evanston, Illinois, for the transaction of miscellaneous business of the said town, and after moderator have been elected, we'll proceed to hear and consider the objects of this special meeting, presented below as items 4 through 7, and decide on such measures as may, in pursuance of law, come before the meeting, and especially to consider and decide the following: the call to order, announcement of legal notice publication, election of moderator, approval of minutes in town meeting from 2/11 of April 12, 2011, further consideration and action regarding T20-11 proposed budget and appropriation ordinance for town purposes for period of October 1, 2011 to March 31, 2012. Discussion and evaluation regarding township services, government and structure, new business and others, and then adjournment. Can I accept a motion from the floor for a moderator for this meeting? It can be anyone from the floor who is a registered. Yes. Alderman Rainey.
You calling on me? I nominate Trustee Tisdall to be our moderator.
There can be other nominations from the floor if you would like from the floor.
I move acclamation.
I nominate Clerk Green.
Point of order. Quite honestly, I don't believe that's authorized under the Act. Only at the annual town meeting do members of the community participate as electors in making motions and nominating people. But I would second Clerk Green's nomination anyway. But I think it's completely out of order.
I don't, wait. Let me do this. I appreciate the nomination, but I fail to accept because I cannot take the minutes and also be the moderator at the same time. So are there any other nominations from the floor? You didn't get out of that one. It's been moved and second that the moderator for the meetings will be Moderator Tisdall. All in favor for the accepting of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. May you raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that you will become the moderator of the township meeting?
I do.
And that you will abide by the rules and regulations, that you will do this to the best of your ability?
I do.
Moderator Tisdale, you have the floor.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the annual town meeting? Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Trustee Moderator Tisdall. My only comment on the minutes of the meeting, our meeting in April, was that it refers to reports of both our supervisor and assessor would be attached to the minutes, and they were not included attached to these minutes. In the packet that I downloaded. And I just want to make sure that the Assessor Wilson and Supervisor Vance's reports from April are indeed attached to the minutes of the April meeting.
They should be.
Apparently they weren't, but they will be.
Right.
Thank you.
My only, it's not even an amendment, it's just perhaps a reminder. Clerk Reed.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to pass the minutes. Seeing no lights for further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are passed. Next item is further consideration and action regarding 2T011 proposed budget and appropriation ordinance for town purposes for period of October 1st, 2011 to March 31st, 2012.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the budget and appropriation ordinance. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have in our packet tonight a detailed memorandum from Joellen Earl with her review of the township budget, which I think she did with Supervisor Vance and perhaps Assessor Wilson, maybe with Assessor Wilson. And it recommends some additional cost savings amounting to $87,000 to be achieved through consolidation and combining with the city's services. And I'd like to consider those adjustments as part of the township's budget. And that is, I'd like to recommend that we pursue those cost savings through contract services, payroll processing, data processing, banking fees, storage fee, and in the assessor's office, the contract service again, payroll, and for the supervisor's office, contractual services, auditing, accounting, and banking fees. And
is that a friendly amendment to the motion?
so my friendly amendment would be to reduce the township's proposed budget by the estimated cost savings. And I'm wondering, too, perhaps our township officials can help us, whether there would be and a corresponding reduction in personnel costs if payroll, data processing, and so forth were to be done in conjunction with the city's resources.
I believe, Alderman Grover, that somewhere in the minutes, which I can't find right now, it said that that was the maximum possible from Joe Ellen's analysis. Okay. So it would seem to me unwise to make it mandatory that they achieve the maximum possible.
Perhaps our township officials can help us understand which of these cost savings are realistic to accomplish in the last 6 months of this budget year, if any.
Would either of you
Yeah.
like to respond? Thank you, Ms. Vance.
One of the things I want to point out is that the township's budget year started April 1. So the cost allocations and things that she has presented to you were based on a budget that's effective April 1. Some of those costs have already been incurred, so they're not a total based upon what's in the budget and what she presents. For example, the audit fee. The audit has been done, and the auditors are being paid now for last year's audit. There may be some things that we can, for example, the storage, moving that out and do that. We can, the accounting fees, at this time there is a contract that ends and goes through March. So all of those total $80-some thousand cannot be achieved because some of those expenditures have occurred already at this point.
Thank you, Supervisor Vance. Do you have a recommendation to us as to how much cost savings we can realize for the last 6 months of this township
Not at
fiscal
this
year?
time, I don't.
Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, and thank you, Alderman Grover, for your question. I think probably it's a better idea, given how complicated this is for your budget for this year, to ask and request that you incorporate these cost savings into the next year's budget, that you just plan that this is going to be something that you look at your next year's budget. And on October 3rd at the Human Services Committee, we can discuss this further. If that's all right with committee members. And I'm also interested in the $30,000 annual cost savings in the various services provided at the bottom of the page. So we'll be talking about that also at Human Services.
Alderman Wilson.
And I guess from my perspective, it seems that the trend is heading towards a desire to eliminate the township, largely because of opportunities to have cost savings, money savings. So my view is, to the extent that these things can be obtained in the current year, that's going to be helpful if there's going to be an argument to maintain the existence of the township. Does that make sense?
You know, I would like to make the comment, first of all and foremost, that the township does not have a deficit. We can all maybe do cost savings, but the township does not have a deficit. The township does not have any unfunded pension obligations. Well, we all take a look at cost savings and whatever, but the township does have to operate and carry out its fiduciary responsibility as a separate entity from the city of Evanston. I do not have a problem in looking at cost savings, though.
Right. And just to be clear, I'm certainly not implying that it's not being done correctly, but it does seem that there are opportunities to have cost savings. And I think that's what people are really focusing in on. We're all trying to save money across the board, everywhere we can find places to save money. And I think people are perceiving this as there being duplication of some, not services necessarily, but certainly cost-saving opportunities. So if we can identify those, find them now, and put them into action before next year's budget, that's ideal. You know,
Take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alderman Rainey?
Well, one way government entity doesn't have debts or owing is to overtax. And I have maintained for quite a while that we over-levy this community for township expenses. Second of all, you know, we can talk about the $30,000 at the bottom of the page all we want, but there is a lease that I believe was illegally entered into several years ago that is not up for renewal or elimination until 2013, which really isn't that far away. The value of that lease today is $144,000. That is a huge, huge amount of money. So anything we do, I think we have to consider that right at the top of the list. And there is no reason, Supervisor Vance, that you can't make cuts. And none of these items mentioned by Alderman Grover have to do with employees. They have to do with things like, for your few number of employees, which I think exceeds the number necessary for the amount of clients you have a payroll processing service. That it's a minor amount, but it's an extravagant expense for a small organization. There's just no reason for it. That you've paid storage all these years is just unnecessary. We've paid an accountant to produce, in some cases, for example, when you're talking about the emergency assistance, we sometimes get 20 pages for 3 allocations, 20 pages of paper with 1 line on each page. I've always found that to be really quite unnecessary when it could all be put on 1 page. So I think there are just so many things, and I was surprised that Department Head Earl did not put any personnel on your list. There's no personnel here, so there's really no sustainable savings, really, as long as the personnel continues to exist. We just need to do something. This conversation has gone on for the 20 years I've been on this council when it comes to the township budget. Oh no, we can't cut because da-da-da-da. So as a result, we never cut. I think the lease was entered into illegally, and I think for that reason we could probably get an adjustment in that lease in terms of terminating it. Just a thought for our legal staff.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. It's seeing no further lights. It's been moved and seconded to approve the budget. Alderman Grover, you made a motion, a friendly amendment. Do you still want to have that? I'll read you the language that I couldn't find earlier. It says the figures on the attached spreadsheet contain the best case scenario, which includes savings of just over $85,000 should these changes be implemented.
Was there a second?
I don't think there was a second.
All right.
And it would be for a 6-month time period anyway, instead of the full.
All right.
I'm going to vote no anyway.
Okay. City Clerk, would you call the roll on a motion to approve the township budget?
And this is without Alderman Grover's amendment?
This is without Alderman Grover's amendment.
So this is the original
This is Alderman Tendam's original motion.
Alderman Rainey?
No.
Alderman Fisk?
The motion is to approve the township budget as presented.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tindem? Alderman Grover?
No.
6 to 2.
Vote is 6-2. The motion passes. The township budget is approved. Next we have,
Wait.
sorry?
It says introduction and action? No?
All I have,
Introduction.
All right, we
are
need
you
to suspend the
looking at a different? Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
So we just
Sorry, guys, I was using the wrong agenda. We need to introduce it and then
We need to suspend the rules.
suspend the rules. Yeah. Would anyone like to make a motion to do that?
I move to suspend the rules.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend the rules. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey.
No.
Alderman Fisk.
That does it. Thank you, Clerk Green. The rules can only be suspended by a unanimous vote.
So the rules are not suspended,
So the rules are not suspended,
only introduced.
and this is introduced. So we will need to have another meeting of the township. City manager.
Yeah, so, Madam Moderator, members of the Township Board, we'd recommend then that you would set a special Township Board meeting for the 26th of September.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to set the next meeting on the 26th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll have the next meeting then. Next item on the agenda, Alderman Rainey.
Madam Mayor, I don't want it to go unnoticed, but I thought it should be mentioned that the legal department, Grant Farrar's memo, comprehensive memo on township issues was superb and probably enlightened all of us in ways we've never been enlightened before. So I think we owe him a debt of gratitude for that.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey, and that segues nicely into discussion and evaluation regarding township services and government structure.
Madam Moderator, members of the board, you asked the Evanston City Manager and the Evanston City staff to look at some issues at your last township meeting. One of those documents was already discussed regarding budgets. Mrs. Earle provided that, and certainly we'd be happy to answer any additional questions regarding that. You also asked the Corporation Council to prepare a memorandum on organizational structure issues. That's also been referenced, and Mr. Farrar is here if the members of the board would like him to walk through that. Finally, there was a request at the last Human Services meeting to kind of package up all of the township issues that are being discussed, and the third issue was regarding the lease of the existing township offices, and so that item that was before Human Services is also on this agenda. I think, as many of you have said, there has been long discussions regarding the township, regarding the township's governance structure, regarding possible changes. We believe, as your city staff, that we have brought to you now at this point all of the collected information that we have on that subject. It's clear that if the Township Board, the City Council wishes to make any changes to the structure of Evanston Township, while it's not uncharted territory, it's certainly actions that are not taken on a regular basis here within the state of Illinois. So if you do choose this evening to make any direction to staff to move any of those options forward, I guess we just have a caution that we want to be cautious in advising you on actions that are very infrequent within the state of Illinois. We stand prepared to help you accomplish whatever policy goals you think are appropriate, with the caveat that we want to be careful, we want to be cautious, thoughtful in reviewing what in some cases is many, many years of conflicting laws and conflicting case law on these subjects. But we do stand ready, Mr. Farrar and his staff and my staff stand ready to assist the Township Board if you wish to make any changes to the structure or the actual being of the township itself.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson?
Thank you. One of the things I would like to see is what the cost of a referendum would be and how that would be paid for. I think that's going to be relevant in making the decision. I would also like to get just an assessment of who might object to this outside of our township.
Thank you. Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Trustee Tisdall.
Trustee Grover.
I think there are lots of questions that deserve further study. The mechanisms for governmental consolidation, I think that's maybe what we're talking about here. Questions about our general assistance program and how that's administered if it's not done from a township structure. Those are important issues to me. How a referendum works and what we would need to do if we wanted to seek either an advisory or a binding referendum in Evanston with regard to the township structure. And so I'd like to, for these trustees to give further direction to our township staff to find out answers to some of these questions. And perhaps it would be worthwhile to have a smaller group of us discuss these issues with the information that staff might provide.
Thank you. Trustee Fisk?
Thank you. Well, the proper group is Human Services Committee, and I think that's where we should have the discussion. I do remember from watching council meetings in the past that there have been discussions from time to time about eliminating the township, and I'm curious as to whether some of you who've served on the council longer can share with us reasons that that has not happened, that previous councils have not pursued this.
Next is Alderman Rainey, or Trustee Rainey, so maybe she can answer that. Oh, just why haven't previous councils pursued this? I know there's been some discussion from time to time as I've watched council meetings.
It's all about politics. Yeah. What I wanted to know is a factual question, answer to a factual question. We have a client in Evanston who receives general assistance. Let's say that that person moves to the city of Chicago and continues to qualify for public assistance in some form, certainly not from the city of Evanston. What benefit does the city of Chicago afford a client who is qualified for Evanston's general assistance? In other words, a person who has absolutely no source of income. What happens in Chicago? I know they don't have little township general assistance offices, but that person must receive some benefits, and I'd like to know how they're administered in Chicago.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. It's a good question, and Trustee Rainey.
How are we going to be getting answers to our questions? From city staff, from legal department?
Trustee Rainey, members of the board, we'll take whatever direction you have. City staff's been helping. We'll continue to help. I know Supervisor Vance is here. Perhaps she might have an answer to that question regarding Chicago.
Thank you.
In the city of Chicago, what we would call the equivalent is considered called a transitional assistance program, and it's administered through the IDHS, the Illinois Department of Human Services, administers that program for residents of the city of Chicago.
So the conditions have to be the same.
There are some of the basic qualifications are the same, but there's some differences in the administration of the transitional program offered by IDHS as opposed to the general assistance programs that adopted the township officials. So there is some differences in it.
Is the amount the same?
No. In every township you go to, the amounts may vary. The township supervisor has the authority to set the amount of the assistance that one receives. So you have a lot of different factors that come into place at different townships. It could be the amount of their budget. Some will only give that amount that public aid states that you have to. You cannot give below the public aid amount. Others give up to $600 and some dollars, so it varies by township.
But what I'm asking, Supervisor Vance, is compared to the city of Chicago, the Evanston amount, can you make that?
Compared to the city of Chicago and Evanston, I would say ours is 50% more. They probably give about $200 and some dollars, and we give $400, so ours is higher.
And does that $200 and some odd dollars come directly from state funds, or is it money levied by the city of Chicago against the taxpayers there?
If I'm not mistaken, and I don't want to be quoted directly on it, but I think it's money levied against the taxpayers in the city of Chicago through, and then the funds go through IDHS for the administration of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you. Trustee Wynn?
Yes, I had a question about something that Commissioner Suffredin said to us, and it's referred to in this memo, excuse me, last week when he met with us. I'd like to, for the legal department at least, or possibly to contact Commissioner Suffredin's office to expand a little bit further about the possibility of legislative action in Springfield about creating an alternative form of township government for Evanston. I realize that that's, when you see it here on paper, just how difficult that would be. But I'd like to have just a little bit more information about what he was thinking about on that, if we could contact him and get him to expand on his thought a little bit on that one.
Thank you. Trustee Wynn will try to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
No, I guess he was just stream of consciousness here when he was here. And I had another question, but I think it's already been answered. Thank you.
I think we had planned for a follow-up meeting with Commissioner Suffredin, so that could go on the list. Trustee Grover.
Thank you, Trustee Tisdale. And as part of these discussions, I want to make sure that our township officials are at the table, whether it's at the Human Services Committee or some other way, because I think we really need their input and perspective on township government and the administration of general assistance and how it can be more efficient, or what the alternatives are for us in Evanston.
Thank you. Trustee Braithwaite? Trustee Tendam?
Thank you. I'm sort of going to go out there on a limb with Alderman Wynn. I wonder if we've exhausted all of our resources in Springfield as well. I'm glad we're pushing at this end, because that ultimately might be the best way to do it. But in order to resolve or dissolve or minimize the township, have we really looked at everything that Springfield could do for us, including introducing a bill by one of our state representatives or legislative representatives? It just seems to me we should look at all the options and keep pushing from this end as well.
Thank you. City Manager?
Yes, Madam Moderator, Trustee Tendam. In my discussions with the Corporation Council, and I think also some discussions with Commissioner Suffredin prior to his appearance, I think really it's up to you all to decide what you want. And I think if there is an alternate form that makes sense, I think at that point then we work to draft appropriate legislation to amend state law and put it forward in the General Assembly. So I don't think there's a rubric to this. There's not a path for how this would work. I think it's really just a matter of saying the state law in Evanston, the township government shall be : and that really is the bill. So I think as you discuss these things, don't let how things would work in Springfield overly burden you. I think it's really, if you can come up with a model that you think makes sense, I think we then have the ability through our legislative representatives in Springfield, Commissioner Suffredin, of course, well-schooled in the ways of Springfield. I think if you come up with something you want to see happen, I think we come to the General Assembly and try to make it happen.
Trustee Fisk?
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking along those lines after I was reading this. It looks like we really can do what we want to do. And City Manager, I think the sooner we can get a direction to you, the better it will be to move this along. On page 33, the paragraph possible city involvement in the General Assistance Program. And it's talking about really another unit of local government to transfer over and then administer the necessary programs. In this case, it could be the city. And I think I'd like to look at more of a blended way of keeping the township in operation, but basically moving the township offices and the township staff over to the city and sharing, according to Joellen Earle's table, those costs. And I think that would be a good step, unless there's someone who feels that, for whatever reason, they wish to dissolve the township. But again, this will be discussed at Human Services. But if you want direction tonight, I'd be happy to participate in that discussion.
Trustee Rainey? Pass. All right, City Manager, you have several questions to answer for us, I guess, before the next
Yes.
meeting of the township.
The next meeting of the township is scheduled for seven days from now. I think it will be difficult for us to give comprehensive answers to all of these questions. Certainly, we can identify the cost of a referendum in a pretty straightforward way. We've done some initial work, which is included in the memo regarding general assistance. We can endeavor to do additional work to that. The referendum advisory versus binding, again, I think that is pretty straightforward. We should be able to have that for you. And then the whole question of the alternate form of township government, I think it's difficult for us, unless you're going to direct us to come back with an alternate form of township government. Really, we need your input as to what the component parts of that would be. So I think we can have some of this ready for you in 7 days' time. But again, looking if there's additional direction. If not, we'll come back with those information items for the meeting you've just scheduled now for the 26th.
Well, Alderman Grover had suggested a smaller working group, and Alderman Grover has her light on. Trustee Grover has her light on.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Given the timing of a referendum, part of the referendum question I think has to involve when council resolves to place a referendum on the ballot, what the timing is, what our deadlines are, and whether Human Services is going to be nimble enough to make decisions and move it forward.
Trustee Fisk.
Now, if I understand correctly, we can put a referendum on the ballot. We don't have to get the 10% of the voters, that we can put it on the ballot. So that's...
There are multiple ways that occurs, Mr. Farrar, and in essence, to give precise answers.
Okay, and then the date that we have to submit that.
Madam Moderator, members of the Town Board, and Township Clerk Green. With respect to referendum, as my memo gave an overview on, you have advisory and binding referenda that can be done either through the resolution of the governing body, which would be in this case the Township Board, or through the voter-led petition. The next election, based upon the state of Illinois election calendar, is March 20th, 2012. In looking at the election calendar a few minutes ago, I noted that referendum deadlines for submission appear to be December 19th, 2012 in the case of a voter-led referendum, or I believe January 3rd in the instance of a submission from the Township Board. 2012, I'm sorry. It would be January 3rd, 2012, the deadline for a resolution from this board to be submitted to the State Board of Elections in order for a question, either for it to be advisory or binding, bottom line, a referendum period, to appear on the March 20th ballot. With respect to petitions generated by registered voters, I believe that deadline is December 19th, 2011.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further lights for discussion, I guess it will be referred to Human Services.
Madam Moderator, just I'm unclear. Is it the board's desire to have a report at your September 22nd meeting, or is it your desire to refer the matter to?
As much as possible.
As much as possible. Okay, very good.
26.
Do you want to have a special meeting of Human Services?
Oh, I think we voted to have the township reconvene.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead with do that. Is there a motion to adjourn the township meeting
To September 26th.
to September 26th? Thank you. Trustee Grover, you moved to adjourn? I did. And it's been seconded. City Clerk?
Trustee Rainey.
Aye.
Trustee Fisk.
Aye.
Trustee Braithwaite.
Aye.
Trustee Nguyen.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Holmes. Oh, sorry, she's gone. Trustee Tindem. Aye. Trustee Grover. Six.
The township meeting is adjourned. We are until the what?
It's recessed.
Recessed.
I move that we maybe take a 5-minute recess before convening the council meeting. It looks like we've got a long
All right.
road still here.
We will take a 5-minute recess. We don't need to vote on that.
Five we can do another night, and 6 we can do.
All right. Who am I missing?
I think you have everybody. Because Alderman Holmes is still gone.
Yeah, she and Colleen are gone, so I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Welcome back to the Evanston City Council meeting. I am going to take the mayor's privilege to move SP2 to the next item. Ms. Thomas, are you here, Director? Thomas, thank you. And my apologies, I thought you were all here for soccer or baseball.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Tisdall, City Council members, City Clerk Green, and City Manager Bobkowitz. I'm Yvonne Thomas, Health Director, and tonight I shall give you updates as it relates to a donation received to the Health Department from Northwestern University Feinberg School of Medicine, Programs in Public Health. I will give you a status of our first federally qualified health center in Evanston. I will also share with you some dental clinic successes, new initiatives to come, and unveil the City of Evanston's version of a national movement to address childhood obesity called Let's Move. At this time, I will ask the Mayor and the City Manager Bobkowitz to come forward. Dr. Virginia Bishop from Northwestern's Feinberg School of Medicine, who is the coordinator of professional experiences in programs in public health, will come forward and make a presentation. Thank you.
On behalf of the Northwestern Feinberg School of Medicine, Programs in Public Health, I would like to express our gratitude to the Evanston Health Department for partnering with us in providing a practical public health education experience for our students. Public health is the science and art of preventing disease, prolonging life, and promoting health through the organized efforts and informed choices of society, organizations, public and private, communities, and individuals. The dimensions of health can encompass a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. We are in awe of the Evanston Department of Health with such a small team responsible for the health of so many. I think that, unfortunately, absent a health threat or an existing epidemic, many would perceive their value as less than what it is, because there is no perceived threat. There is no tangible, imminent disease. But the reality is that the health promotion, disease prevention, the surveillance, the involvement in and provision of evidence-based data is what allows community like Evanston to be seemingly free of illness and impairment. Absent a team of able-bodied public health practitioners, Evanston could be in the history books as the town that coulda, woulda, and shoulda, a natural experiment in the importance of a public health team. Thank you so much. And as the coordinator for our programs and professional experience, I applaud your efforts and I respect your vision. There's 2 seconds.
Thank you very much for the check, and thank you for all the good things that you said about our health department. They are all correct, and we appreciate your coming here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Northwestern University School of Public Health. Now for our status of our FQHC, our federally qualified center application. As you know, Erie Family Health Center submitted an application December 2010. The Erie Evanston Health Center was not one of the few awards announced earlier this month. Only 2 were awarded in the state of Illinois, and they were located in the southern part of the state. Please understand that 800 applications were submitted to HRSA, which is the federal agency that funds community health centers. Out of 800 applications, 67 were awarded, and again, 2 were in the state of Illinois. The only awards granted were those who met and will serve special populations. HRSA made that decision based on the federal funding available monies that they had at the time, and that decision was made after all 800 applications were received. Special populations are defined as those who will serve migrant populations, rural populations, and populations in public housing. But we will learn at the end of September if our application was approved and not funded. So there may be an opportunity still to receive federal funding in the new fiscal year. So Evanston is still excited and still very much willing and committed to serving this community at large. We will not rescind our application. We're allowed to keep the current application that we have submitted to be eligible for that new funding stream in the next fiscal year. Once we know our status, Erie and the City of Evanston will outline a revised plan and timeline for the health center. The partnership between the city and Erie Family Health Center continues to be our best strategy for delivering low-cost and high-quality health services in our community. We know we have the right ingredients. We have community-wide support, particularly with the commitment of both hospitals and our community stakeholders. Mayor Tisdall has encouraged and reiterated and expects that the Evanston Health Initiative Committee to remain active and engaged and involved in developing private funds. We, EHIC, we affectionately call the Evanston Health Initiative Committee, will reconvene October 19th to continue to strategize our plan once we learn of our status. The dental clinic. 2 years ago, as this council knows and the community may know, that the dental clinic cost the city of Evanston about $150,000 to operate. 2 years later, we have increased our revenues, we have increased our patient visits through better outreach, and we've received additional grant funds in the excess of $100,000 and better managed dental operations. Our success has netted $75,000 revenue stream for fiscal year 2011 and already projects a $20,000 revenue stream for FY 2012. So we're operating in the black as opposed to in the red. New initiatives. On September 22nd, we'll have our first meeting of the Food Safety Work Group. This food safety work group will take place convened by the health department and will seek the input of our licensed food establishments as we move forward to assure that Evanston has food at a high level of safety. The group consists of local restaurant owners, including our one and only food truck, school districts, hospitals, nursing homes, and daycare facilities. The health department expects that the following outcomes from this group will occur: increased food safety, collaboration and mentoring among our food establishment owners, and creation of the City of Evanston's webpage to serve as a resource for all of the establishments. Already, 25 establishments have signed on and will be attending the first meeting. And any other additional interested parties, please, you are encouraged to call Carl Kneva of the Environmental Health Division of the Health Department at 847-859-7831. That's 847-859-7831, or email SafeFood, City of Evanston. And now for the moment that many of you have been waiting for, other than the check from Northwestern University. Jonathan Webb, our Community Health Division Manager, will present Let's Move.
Thank you, Director Thomas. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Tisdale, City Council members, City Clerk Green, and City Manager Bobkowitz. I am Jonathan Webb, the Community Health Division Manager for the Evanston Health Department. Let's Move is a national initiative launched by First Lady Michelle Obama, dedicated to solving the problem of childhood obesity within a generation, so that children born today will grow up healthier and able to pursue their dreams. I'd like to offer you a quote from the First Lady Obama. "The surge in obesity in this country is nothing short of a public health crisis that is threatening our children, our families, and our future," end quote. In suburban Cook County, obesity rates have doubled for adults and tripled for children over the past 20 years. Obesity will soon surpass tobacco as the leading cause of death. Rising obesity rates are largely a result of what we eat and how much we move. Obesity has obvious health consequences. It jeopardizes our children's future by making them more susceptible to chronic illness and makes them less productive overall. Additionally, obesity carries a huge price tag. It costs the state of Illinois approximately $3.5 billion a year. With that being said, Illinois and Cook County have launched initiatives to combat the obesity epidemic. In response to a call for support to this effort, the City of Evanston signed on to the National Let's Move campaign over a year ago. As an official Let's Move city, Evanston is prepared to do its part. The City of Evanston is a working partner supporting District 65's efforts around planning and implementation of physical activity and healthy eating, standardization of school garden policies, and providing assistance with the implementation of a nutrition and wellness curriculum in the future. A tangible and early product of this partnership is the provision of salad bars to District 65 schools. District 65 and Superintendent Murphy, demonstrating their commitment to ensuring that more students have access to healthier foods and to allow for safe storage of fresh fruits and vegetables, will purchase these salad bars for their schools, and we have members from District 65's leadership team with us here tonight. To support this healthy eating campaign and to encourage youth to make healthier food choices, the City of Evanston will help with promotional signage and with promotional designs and educational signage for these salad bars. We understand that while this city-district partnership is essential in achieving the Let's Move goal of eliminating childhood obesity, we can't address this epidemic alone. It will take the support of the community. One of the ways that we have proposed to get youth and parents engaged around this issue is through the development of the Evanston Let's Move dance video. The National Let's Move campaign created the original Let's Move video starring Beyonce. This video is a line dance style dance video that instructs kids to get up and get active. This summer, approximately 100 Evanston youth have worked hard to put together an Evanston video version that we will show tonight. This video has allowed us to creatively interact and connect with the next generation of leaders, with the hope that these health ambassadors will share the healthy message with their friends and within their communities. At this time, even though the hour is late, I'd like to acknowledge the volunteers, the youth, the parents, and the people who supported this video. Can you please stand at this time? There is a wealth of unhealthy media that youth are subjected to. This is a product that communicates a healthy message that youth can be proud of, support, and enjoy. We hope that the Let's Move dance will be incorporated into health programming within schools and youth service organizations as it has in cases across the nation. The collaborative efforts of District 65 and the Health Department and the support from the community will produce a system change and policy that creates a healthier Evanston and puts our youth in the best possible position to achieve their life goals. Without further ado, I'd like to unveil our own version of a nationally recognized video which is encouraging kids to move.
Well, I got a new video game. I think I have some leftover snacks from last time. That sounds great. Let's go.
Mayor Tisdall, it's Evanston Thomas, the health director.
Hi, Vonda. Come on in.
Yes, Mayor, you want to see me?
Vonda, I'm concerned about rising childhood obesity rates, and as Evanston's health director, I need your help to stop this.
I've got an idea. I'll get right on this.
Let's move. It's your boy, let me see you. out of 3 U.S. kids are overweight or obese. Physical activity is key to kids' healthy future. The Let's Move video is just the beginning of the health and wellness journey. Join host Evanston Thomas and her special guests on the next segment of the health and wellness journey. Check schedule on ectv.com, also available on demand on the internet.
There are many people who spent time on this product. I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to again thank the Let's Move dancers, actresses, and their parents, District 65 teachers Stephanie Abudaya and Barb Wally, District 65 as an organization, thank you for your support, the Line Dance Divas, UIC Community Health interns Kelsey Full and Jessica Dudley, thank you. Staff Dorothy Thrower and Ann Purdy. And without these two individuals, this video would not be possible. Thank you for volunteering Gary Brooks, who's the Let's Move video director and ECTV board president, and Jim Mizell, who is the producer of Let's Move video and the health and wellness journey. Thank you again for volunteering your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Manager.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to make some suggestions regarding the rest of the evening. We still have several items to go. I think it's important to do SP1 and SP3 this evening. SP4 could be held to the very end of the meeting. Mr. Lasasso, the president of the Evanston Wilmette Golf Association Board, had to leave some family emergency issues he needed to tend to, but I can cover that at the very end of the meeting, and then would ask that we move SP5 and SP6 to your October 10th meeting. So that's the 311 Center second quarter report and the license plate recognition proposal presentation. Neither of these are time sensitive. The 311 report is fairly complete. I'd like to come back, though, at a future meeting. So if, Madam Mayor, there could be a motion to continue SP5 and SP6 to your October 10 meeting, and then we'll deal with the balance of the agenda.
Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move to move SP5 and 6 to our October 10th meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to move SP5 and SP6 to October 10th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. That leaves us at SP1. City Manager? Or are there any more young children waiting for anything?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, SP1 is a discussion of City Council goals for 2012. As you know, we are nearing the end of our budget preparation process, anticipating the proposed budget for fiscal year 2012 here in the next several weeks. And what has become the council's practice is to go through your city council goals prior to the issuance of the proposed budget to see if there are any changes, additions, or deletions to that list. There are currently 13 city council goals. They're up on the screen. I'd like to take just a brief moment to walk through each of them, and then I provided in your packet some thoughts on some changes which I'd also like to walk through. First, the area of affordable housing, and I think it's important to mention that the last several years the council felt it was important to have all of the goals be of equal importance, so these are listed in no order of importance other than alphabetically. The issue of affordable housing, the city has been working very hard, mostly focused on the NSP2 grant. That is well underway. We are getting ready to sell the first of the units, have the first of the rental units available for rental. So that is well underway. We've done some staff changes in our housing division within the community development and community economic development departments. So I'm feeling very good that we have a good handle on issues of affordable housing. However, it remains a serious community concern, and would certainly encourage the council to think about keeping that goal going forward to 2012. Budget planning. Again, this was one of the council's first goals when creating goals back in late 2009. I think it's fair to say we have completely transformed how the council looks at the budget, how the community is engaged with budget planning, the Engage Evanston process that we now have newly named, but really the second full year of a real comprehensive community engagement process and budget planning. In the area of capital improvement program planning, I think the council again has made a lot of movement there. Certainly one being the sheer amount of dollars that we're issuing for debt each year for capital improvements. However, that does not mean that the needs for capital programs have gone away or diminished in any way. I think there's still work to be done in the area of capital improvement program planning. My hope is over the next couple of years we can get to a point where we've balanced the issues of debt versus needs and have a better handle than we do today. But again, I think work continues to need to be done. The Climate Action Plan, you've heard this evening several initiatives, community engagement initiatives that are going on there. This is an ongoing issue, certainly one that's important to the community. When you look at the important issues that have been raised at this dais over the last 12 months, from wind farms to plastic bags to the Cub Energy Saver program, the Climate Action Plan remains a central part of what we do as a city and certainly will continue to in the future. In the area of economic development, I believe we've made some great progress, but still much work that needs to be done. Likely that this would need to continue on the council's goals. The area of efficiency and effectiveness of service, I'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes, as I will the federal, state, regional government affairs agenda. The area of lakefront development, the council has also spent a fair amount of time talking about lakefront development, specifically one proposal from a member of the community that the council appointed a committee to look at that. That committee has made its recommendations, which will be coming back to the full council here shortly. It may be that the focus on lakefront development is no longer quite as pointed for 2012, so that perhaps is something that might no longer need to be a goal in the future. Relations with Northwestern University, I think, continue to improve the number of programs, initiatives that we have working with Northwestern many-fold than from a few years ago. I don't know that issues regarding Northwestern ever go away as a goal of the City Council, but that remains an important issue. Police and fire pension funding issues get fought. Those issues get fought on a couple different venues. Certainly at this dais, the council's been very aggressive in looking at the proper funding levels for the pensions, and I think has made some good progress over the last couple of years there. There remain issues certainly in Springfield regarding that, and of course the overall dollar amount. While it is leveling off, it is not dropping significantly, and will be a large financial issue facing the community for many years to come. The area of the Robert Crown Center improvements, as many of you know, we've been working over the last 6 months on a design, build, operate, finance proposal. We'd hope to be here this evening with the final RFP for your approval. Because of a variety of factors, that is delayed a month, so it's our intention to come back to you in October to have that. So we're feeling good that 6 months ago we expected to be here this evening, and it's really only slipped a month. So we'll be coming back to you in order to issue the request for proposals on Robert Crown, a significant infrastructure project for the city, probably the largest infrastructure project that we would have control over. So clearly that would seem to make sense to continue as part of the City Council's goals. In the area of safety, the council has focused on a variety of different issues. The mayor took leadership this summer with the mayor's Safe Summer Summit. We've been focusing on youth engagement, which is, if you recall, back in 2009 was a subset of safety, and then last year the council added it as the 13th goal, youth engagement. We continue to work diligently in areas of youth engagement.
Alderman Rainey has a question.
Madam Mayor and council members and city manager, I've ever since Alderman Holmes and I raised the issue of crime and safety and issues such as that, as far as a goal is concerned, I've always felt that safety issues didn't quite describe the goal that I was interested in. For example, I think of safety issues mainly as, I don't know, maybe, issues on Central Street with people being hit by a car. I'm much more interested in crime prevention in the neighborhoods, a term such as that, or at least a category under safety issues, so that people know that that we're not just talking about, for example, driving without using your cell phone. And so I would just like us to add a little embellishment to safety issues, and especially crime prevention in neighborhoods.
Alderman Wilson?
I generally agree. Maybe we can call it crime prevention and safety together, or separate items. They're both important. They're not really the same thing.
Alderman Grover?
No, I think it'd be a good idea to put crime prevention as a subcategory of safety, perhaps. I envision a lot more that we could do in the way of neighborhood block groups, community organizing. The city could take some direction and lead in that area. That would check both the safety and crime prevention box, for example.
Is that all right with everyone, seeing no more lights? All right, we are agreed.
So, Madam Mayor, members of the council, so under safety issues would be a subhead, crime prevention in neighborhoods? Yeah. Okay.
Safety makes me think of seat belts. Yeah.
Unless there's other questions, Madam Mayor, so with those 13, in the staff report on page 53, I attempted to try to engender some thought prior to the meeting for the council on perhaps some changes that you might like to make. It would be my recommendation that the areas of affordable housing, capital improvement program planning, the climate action plan, economic development, issues regarding Northwestern University, police and fire pension funding issues, the Robert Crown Center improvements, safety issues now with the subhead, and youth engagement would be goals that would remain for 2012. Would ask the council to consider removing budget planning, in that I believe the focus that the council desired has, I think, been achieved, and it's really now a part of our regular operations. The issues of federal, state, regional government affairs agenda, again, a lot has been incorporated into that over the last couple of years. The hiring of Matt Swinkowski as our intergovernmental relations coordinator, our chief intergovernmental relations staff member, Mayor Tisdall, who is out there regularly at all levels of government. I think we've been able to incorporate those initiatives fairly well into our day-to-day operations.
And they have no money, so
Well,
we might as
there's
well
that.
give it up as a goal.
But that doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to be aggressive in Springfield and Washington and among the transit agencies and regional governments in Chicago. And then the last area to be considered for removal is lakefront development. It seems as if the council spent quite a bit of time this past year focusing on an individual proposal. I know that when this was first brought forward, many members of the council felt that it was just a matter of continuing to implement the lakefront master plan. Certainly that would continue as funding is allowed without it being a particular goal. And then for consideration for adding goals, I've brought forward 6 areas that I thought perhaps warrant the council's consideration. One is on citizen engagement. We already do quite a bit with citizen engagement citywide. Perhaps as we look forward to new and innovative ways to do that, that could be a focus as a goal. Community partner collaboration. As the council is aware, we've added Devon Woodard as a development officer this past year. I think he's made good progress in helping the city raise money. You heard about the Evanston Healthcare Initiative group as well as the Police and Fire Foundation, but I think it's important to look at that position in more broader terms and perhaps look at it more as a community partner collaboration, so not only raising direct dollars, but having the opportunity to work more closely with our nonprofit and governmental partners. The next area, developmental service and design review, as we get more applications coming before the city for development projects. I think there are opportunities to look at the approval process, to ways to maximize citizen participation, maximize the use of our land use boards in a way that perhaps we're not doing that currently.
Alderman Grover, do you have a question?
City Manager Bobkowitz, is the Development Services Design Review proposed goal an administrative function, or is it part of economic development?
I think it's all of the above. I think in order for economic development to continue to move forward, we have to have a process that makes sense, but at the same time, I think it is a community value that the residents of Evanston are actively involved in all development processes. I'm not sure that our existing policies and procedures really are optimized to meet both of those goals, and I think it would be a worthwhile exercise to talk more, absent a particular project, but to talk more about those policies and procedures so that we can marry the needs of the community to have input, the need of having our appointed boards and commissions to have their proper participation, but also to be mindful of the developers who are coming to Evanston to make sure that we are not repeating the same process multiple times, but we have one cohesive process. I think there are lots of good models around the country to look at, and it's really not something that the council's talked about before, but I think as we're seeing more projects, it might be worthwhile to begin that conversation and have it be a council goal.
Alderman Nguyen?
Well, I think Wally probably has answered some of what I wanted to have a better explanation of this one, and I think you have answered most of it. We actually have talked about it quite a bit before the city manager was here and before the 5 newer members of the council have been part of this council. It would be interesting to revisit this. I don't think we've ever reached a satisfactory conclusion for the community or for the development community on how to go about having a better process that satisfies everyone. So I would look forward to that discussion.
Alderman Rainey?
For clarification, Wally, do you mean reviewing site plan and appearance review and the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals?
And the role that the Planning and Development Committee plays, as well as the full City Council, and what happens at each of those steps, what's the appropriate involvement for the community, what's the appropriate involvement for staff. I think that there would be opportunities to address all of that. And keeping in mind the community values, this is not meant to limit community dialogue, elected official dialogue, but I think other communities of similar makeup of Evanston have found ways to make the most of everyone's time a little bit better than perhaps we have in Evanston. The last 3, Madam Mayor, if I may, the whole issue of innovation, I think, is we are hopefully beginning to look to settle our budget issues as we look to move the organization forward. I think the value of innovation and what can we do to ensure that the city government is more innovative than it currently is important. Job training and employment issues, we focus a lot on that and have been, I think, under the youth engagement goal. Might there be opportunities for us to look at that as a citywide goal? And then finally, the area of visual and performing arts, the discussions that have occurred this spring and summer regarding the Noise Cultural Arts Center and the Evanston Arts Center, I think really beg a larger discussion on what's the City of Evanston's appropriate role in the visual and performing arts, and could we work to be a better community partner with individuals, with nonprofits, in order to leverage, again, very scarce resources and make sure that we're all on the same page and really as a community valuing the visual and performing arts. So those are the group of additions plus some changes really just meant to whet your appetite and to help your thinking. Look forward to your comments.
Alderman Wilson.
Thank you very much, City Manager. I agree with the 3 removals, particularly in view of your explanations. As far as the new goals to be considered, to me, the only ones I think that I would personally add to the list would be the development services, design review, and the visual and performing arts. With respect to the other points, I think we should always be striving to improve the way that we do everything that the city does. And the other items, while there's room for improvement, I see that we are on a path, hopefully with continued positive improvement. For example, citizen engagement, again, on a positive path, partner collaboration, innovation, and the job training. So I don't feel the compelling need to add those to the list right now, but I do feel like we are perhaps falling short is the right way to put it on the development and design review and also on the visual and performing arts, particularly after having spent some time with some of the arts groups and with some of the possible impending changes in the facilities.
Alderman Tandem.
Thank you. I would agree with a lot of what Alderman Wilson just said. I do think the community partner collaboration is a really, I don't think it's necessarily a goal, but a vehicle for achieving a lot of these goals. I would love to place a lot of importance on it because I think it does pertain to the visual and performing arts. A lot of us, like Alderman Wilson said, we've met with people in the arts and met with people in the sports communities, met with people, potentially meet with people in terms of job training. And I think that it really, to bring it forward is a good idea, not as a goal, but somehow to let the community know that we are really interested in collaborating.
Well, when I had a Safe Summer Summit, the community turned out. All the not-for-profits were there. So I think the community is willing to collaborate with us. They just need a clear message, and we also have to understand that they're all doing their own very good things at the same time with their own priorities. All right, does anyone, Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Bobkowitz, I like all of the new goals to be considered. I'm especially curious about perhaps what falls under innovation. Is that government policy, practices, best practices? Are we kind of stuff that other municipalities are doing that we haven't found a way to do yet?
Well, I hope it would be finding ways to do things that make sense for Evanston that no one else has thought of. I think that we do a good job of trying to have best practices in many areas, but there is no reason why we shouldn't be looked to. And we already are looked to. Many of you know I came down from Milwaukee this afternoon. The International City County Managers Association is meeting up in Milwaukee. And so many of my colleagues from not only around the country but around the world we're talking about our citizen engagement process with the budget. I had a manager from Minnesota grab me in an elevator last night and say, my staff's going to be calling you about that. So, we're already looked at for some levels of innovation, but I think if there's any community in America that could be a fertile ground for the next new kinds of innovation, working with our very smart and talented staff members, working with our community. You've heard Shani Watson this afternoon regarding our volunteer efforts. What can we do to continue to leverage that? So I think it really is an all of the above kind of thing, but my hope would be that we come up with innovative solutions to municipal problems that people from all over the world come to Evanston to see how we're doing things.
I think that kind of parallels my experience at the Illinois Municipal League Conference on Thursday and Friday, which was, seems the rest of the state of Illinois is catching up to where we are in so many ways, except for Chicago. So I'd like to fold innovation into everything we consider and think about. Whether we elevate it to a goal, I don't know. But
and it may be like Alderman Tendam's comments that there are things that hopefully community partnerships are about everything that we do. They don't need to be a goal. Certainly from my perspective, innovation can be that way. And maybe once if we are able to spark something in a particular area, maybe that's something that could be nurtured by the city council as a goal in future years. But we would continue to kind of create an environment where innovation is valued. And it's very difficult in difficult budget times to do that, but it's precisely when you need to do it. And certainly from a staff perspective, I'd like to see us move in that direction, even still in difficult budget times, because I think innovation is another key component to helping us deal with that.
And create an environment where we encourage big ideas, where we're asking people not to brainstorm with us.
Sure, and we're not quite there yet,
recreate
unfortunately,
ourselves, right?
and I think it needs more nurturing by senior staff, by the elected officials to make happen.
Thank you.
Alderman Nguyen.
I think it's a good idea. It may have been said as I was reading through some of these, but I do think it's important to actually have innovation as a separately stated goal. I mean, and then it informs all of the others. But I think that by emphasizing it as a separate goal, at least for 1 year, then it demonstrates the level of importance that we put it at. And so. And not just to us, but to everyone in the community and to the staff. And as Wally said, at a time like this, it's really important. So I think we leave it as a separate goal.
Alderman Wilson.
I think it's marked as an item for action, so I'll propose a motion, I guess.
Right ahead.
I move that we remove the 3 items recommended by the city manager and that we add to the list the goals of innovation, development services and design review, and visual and performing arts.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The goals are amended. Alderman Holmes?
I'm sorry, you maybe discussed this already, but are we going to put these goals in any kind of priority due to the economic times now? I know that they're listed just in alphabetical order, and I'm wondering if we could not discuss having some kind of having them in some kind of priority listing.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. I second that because when you have a whole lot of goals, it becomes hard to work on all of them.
Madam Mayor, perhaps we could come back at a meeting, the 26th may not be the meeting, but perhaps the meeting of October 3rd as an agenda item. Have those out there and then perhaps have the council think about how you might want to prioritize them so that we would have it done prior to the budget. But I don't know if there's an urgency to prioritize them this evening.
Is that all right, Alderman Holmes?
Well, I don't know, there's not an urgency, but I think that we need to look at these because there are some issues that they're all important, but I think that, some we are going to have to put a little bit more sweat equity into, I think, because of economic times and conditions in the community. So I'm happy to have you come back with something or for us to be able to discuss at a later date, but I just really would like to plant that seed because I think it's important that we do that.
And I would love to see youth moved higher than its alphabetical space. Alderman Braithwaite?
I would agree with Alderman Holmes, and I guess what I would ask from the city manager is it possible to come up with a ranking system where maybe we can rank our top 3 or 4 as a council and then have staff add that up coming into the meeting, so at least we would have some understanding where everyone is leaning towards as we come up with prioritizing the list.
Alderman Wilson?
Actually, I'll just defer. I think it's going to be really, really hard to prioritize a list like this because the things are so very different conceptually. Innovation is a concept. It's not a specific goal. They're just so different conceptually. Safety issues, what's more important than safety? But on the other hand, if we don't pay the fire and pension funding, then we can't pay for anything else. So I think it's going to be challenging. But I'll just look forward to seeing what the staff comes up with as far as a proposal.
Alderman Rainey?
Well, I agree with Alderman Holmes, and Alderman Wilson touched on it, we can't do some of these. It doesn't matter if they're a priority if we don't have the funds with which to operate. So I think we need to keep that in mind. I know we all know that, but sometimes we get carried away and talk about this program and that program. And, you know, while it's absolutely important that we do those things, if we don't have the funds, you know, it's very difficult to carry them out and causes a lot of disappointment sometimes.
So, Madam Mayor, I think I
budget
hear
ought to be at the top of this list.
the council perhaps wanting an opportunity prior to a meeting when it would be considered to perhaps do some ranking and then us to come back with the results of that at a meeting for you to discuss it. Am I hearing correctly?
That would make sense.
That makes sense.
Great. So
Sure.
we'll do that and we'll come back at a future meeting soon.
Thank you. The next item is the West Oakton Committee Report.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Mayor had appointed a committee to look at development issues on the West Oakton corridor. Alderman Rainey was the chair of that committee. Steve Griffin, the Community and Economic Development Director, staffed the group. He's here to make a presentation about the work of the committee. And unless there's any initial questions or comments, I'd like Steve to make his presentation. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chairman, Alderman, City Manager, Clerk Green. My name is Steve Griffin. I'm Director of Community and Economic Development. I'm here as basically a spokesman of our committee. The committee was made up of Chairman Alderman Rainey, Alderman Mark Tindem, Alderman Don Wilson, Ryan Garten, Dylan Gephardt, Gail Lovingen, Mark Metz, Alan Spear, with staff support provided by myself, Doug Gaynor, Suzette Robinson, Craig Scanar, and Johanna Nyden. And the way we approached the committee work, we always had an open door, and there was several people that would have a seat at the table as we discussed issues. What we've decided to do, we brought you three distinct options that we talked about and discussed. And I'd like to go through those options with you here tonight. The Evanston Recycling Center is a 13,000 square foot facility. It was closed in 2010 and is used presently by the Parks and Department and Public Works as a storage facility, both inside the building as well as outside. To kind of orientate you, most of you know where this is already, but it's important to note that there's a lot of different uses around this site. We have the community garden due south of the recycling center and animal shelter. We have James Park to the south and east. Gordon's Foods has announced and is about ready to get started on construction west of the site. And of course, across the street is the Home Depot and Aldi food store. One thing that it's inevitable we had to touch on is zoning for the site. The subject property that was looked at is zoned I-2. This is light manufacturing that has a lot of light manufacturing uses, but it also allows retail establishments. One of the issues and discussions, the recycling center is a government institution because it's owned and operated by the city of Evanston, is a use by right. But if we were to lease the facility or sell the facility to other users, then there could be zoning issues that the proposal would have to go through. So we're bringing you three distinct options: the indoor sports facility option, the commercial redevelopment option, and the satellite municipal facility option. The indoor sports facility option, this is there has been a group that's brought and submitted to you a report and a proposal to basically seek a long-term lease from the city of Evanston to open it up as an indoor sports facility that they would operate and renovate on their own nickels. They would renovate it, convert the interior space to an indoor sports field, renovate the bathrooms, install air conditioning, and construction of a flex party room. This is like I used to take my kids to a training facility. So when during the off season, the dead of winter, it could be set up for practice indoor baseball, soccer, and you heard some other sports talked about. And in the concept, they would provide these spaces to the different youth and for practice. And they not talked about a great deal of spectators where they'd actually place games, but that is a possibility. There is a zoning requirement that such a facility would require a minimum of 26 parking spaces. And as we talked about each of these proposals, and you saw in our staff report, we had general cost considerations and some of the development, redevelopment opportunities and constraints of the site. For the indoor sports complex, as proposed by EBSA and AYSO, the city would not be required to incur any costs for the redevelopment of the indoor facility. Under this option, the animal shelter could remain and then be expanded. The estimated cost for an indoor or an animal shelter is in the neighborhood of $300 a square foot. It's costly because of the federal and state health requirements for animal shelters, and the total of an animal shelter expansion, so by doubling that, would be somewhere between $1 and $2 million. Currently, a portion of the site is unpaved, and what we tried to do in this scenario was look at the possibility of having the animal shelter relocate their existing parking spaces that are here and share parking here. And then there's a footprint ability to about double the animal shelter facility here. But at the same time, this parking could be done in a way for that expansion, but at the same time for the youth programs that could operate in the indoor facility. Again, their share or their impact is only about 26 parking spaces. Our zoning ordinance has a requirement of 2 spaces for every 1,000 square feet of area devoted to indoor recreation, and that provides that. But in their notion, as they explained it to the committee, was most of it is going to be kind of drop off, where you drop your kid off for the hour and a half that they would be practicing in the facility, and the parents go home, go over to Home Depot, whatever. Some of the development, redevelopment opportunities and constraints. As I mentioned, the current I-2 zoning does not allow for an indoor sports facility. It's kind of interesting wording in our zoning ordinance. It says it allows retail, it allows industrial, and it allows government institutions, but it defines government institution as a government-owned and operated facility. So perhaps as we consider, if we were to consider the proposal of the indoor sports facility, the property would probably need to be rezoned to either C1 or OS, like a Long Park to I do that all the time. The other place I used to work was James Long Park. James Park has similar zoning. The AYSO and EBSA would operate the facility, and there is in their proposal, they've talked about the recycling center, since it's used for storage, that they would be willing to pay for the displacement of that storage in the neighborhood of $4,000 per month. Another important aspect is under the agreement with CARE for the animal shelter, the city, in resolutions passed some years ago, committed to provide up to $5 million for the expansion. Again,
500,000.
500,000. I apologize. Well, you caught me on that. That was a test. So anyway, that was some of the good, bad, and ugly about this proposal. And should the council want to consider this scenario further, the sports group is prepared to present to the council a more detailed proposal, and we would talk things about zoning, the cost of the displacement of the storage, as well as the zoning part of it. And and the parking that I feel needs to be there. The next option is option B. This is a commercial retail concept. We've had, and not only with Gordon Foods, but the council's aware that we've also had some other look on the parcel just behind Gordon Foods being looked at. We did an estimate of the space that's provided. Since it's about 1.5 acres, 1.8 acres of property, we're estimating just on a first floor basis and being able to accommodate parking that we could house somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 square feet of additional retail. That's not to mention that the city couldn't look at offering a proposal out for the recycling center itself and as a warehouse or industrial facility. General cost considerations, if this were to go, that the council want to consider this, that the cost of the demolition are presumed to be paid by the purchaser of the property. This scenario contemplates that the animal shelter and city storage needs would need to be put somewhere else in the city or within the region. The redevelopment opportunities, constraints that we think, based on some sales in the area of a 1.8 acre site, is valued at between $1.2 and $1.9 million. We estimate that should the site fully develop out as for retail use, that there could be a $80,000 to $120,000 positive impact economically to the county and city. Depending on the potential resource, the site may not need to be rezoned. In other words, it was interesting to me, even though it's called light industrial or I2, this still allows a lot of retail uses, the restaurant type 1, restaurant type 2, and retail goods established. In fact, that's what the present zoning is at the Home Depot Aldi Shopping Center, is a like zoning. So there would not or shouldn't be additional zoning hoops that go through, but there's always a potential use or a variance or whatever as we consider the development proposal. And then the third and last option we want to bring for the council for consideration is over the next several weeks, you're going to hear a presentation by the Public Works Department on the Salt Dome, but it's the notion of utilizing the former recycling center as a combined salt dome and storage facility, and it's contemplated in a way to meet the city's salt storage needs. We also looked at so all that would be done within the facility. It would keep the animal shelter in place or at the same place and have a different kind of potential expansion ability. It would keep the parking lot here, so the parking would be limited. However, there could be some shared opportunities. What storage is now here inside the facility could be done in a way for additional construction of indoor facilities here and here. A little over 9,000 or 9,000 square feet, and at a very rough cost of between $800,000 and $900,000. Here, again, the animal shelter could be left and expanded there in place, so we wouldn't have to find a new site for it. And again, the cost to construct this public works satellite municipal facility is somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000 to $900,000. So anyway, the committee met 4 times, actually once a month since May, June, July, August. I do need to apologize to the committee. I had, at our last meeting, August 31st, we had scheduled this to be presented at your next week's meeting, the 26th. But when we were looking at the agenda, and this is a work session discussion meeting, we brought it forward, and I informed them at the late last week. We informed them late last week, so I apologize to them. And they deserve the apology because they really rolled up their sleeves. There was a lot of talk. Again, what's brought to you are 3 different scenarios, and we basically went around the table and brought up these kinds of pros and cons with each, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Alderman Fisk.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Could you tell me how the community gardens are impacted by each of the 3 options?
The community gardens, I guess it was the consensus of the committee that they would be left as it is. So there was not any encroachment. So none of the expansion plans in any way encroached upon it. There was some individual concerns about, that as a next-door neighbor to some of these facilities. But again, we were careful to talk about, we wanted to, in all 3 of these, we wanted to be a good next-door neighbor. And again, what might have been tempting for that to be expansion space or parking space, we opted to leave the community gardens in place.
Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is my disclosure that I am married to Bill Blanchard, who was one of our speakers tonight, who is also the co-president of the Evanston Baseball Softball Association, a nonprofit in Evanston. He is serves as volunteer as co-president of the organization, receives no salary. I've been encouraging him to find a successor for years, which is a different matter, but that's my full disclosure of my connection to Evanston baseball.
Thank you, Alderman Grover. Alderman Wilson.
I don't know if there are any questions, but I had a motion, and if there are no further questions of Mr. Griffin.
Please make your motion.
Thank you.
Oh, oops, Alderman Rainey.
Wait. We need to have a discussion about this. There are various issues here, and I don't want to shut off discussion. Is that what you're intending to do?
Well, I think when there's a motion on the table, we can discuss the motion.
Well, I'd like to discuss the concepts first, if you don't mind.
Of course not.
I mean, not having been present at 90% of the meetings, it might be a good idea for all of us to have a discussion about what went on at those meetings.
Well, it's not quite correct, not 90% of the meetings, but in any event.
Right. Well, go ahead, but I wish the mayor would not allow for discussion of all the items to be cut off with one motion regarding any of the individual suggestions.
I think we're happy to have discussion of all of them. There were no further lights, and that's why Alderman Wilson was going to make his motion. But if you would like to start that discussion, please do so.
Well, he has the floor. Let him start.
My comment was prefaced with the suggestion that there were no further questions. So if there's further discussion before I make the motion, I'm happy to hear that.
I'd like to have an opportunity.
Go right ahead, Alderman Rainey.
We're faced with a tremendous financial burden in our community, and there are 3 suggestions here. One is to preserve this area, to return to the tax rolls, to become retail, commercial, industrial, whatever. 2 plots were designed by our staff to present that. Another is to create a public works satellite location. And then, of course, the indoor soccer and baseball use. I see this as really an unfortunate suggestion that we virtually give away a public building. Granted, it's a lease to a not-for-profit who will not be returning this to the tax rolls. So what we have is a use for kids in the winter who have no place to practice. I have never felt that children who do not have an indoor soccer or baseball field are really deprived. So that's one thing. Secondly, we have an urgent need in Public Works to have a salt dome. What we would do here is not create a salt dome, not build a salt dome. We would retrofit the current recycling center, which the city owns and is on city property, for a city use that is urgent. There would be 2 locations for salt, one on the north end. We would rebuild that in a small way and have this retrofitted for salt storage. We would also have a de-icing facility and a storage facility. To purchase land that is not currently owned by the city, to build a salt dome would mean we'd be taking additional property off the tax rolls, either in Evanston or in another community, build a salt dome. The lowball figure is about $1.2 million. We have this facility. I can't imagine this council wanting to give it up. It just makes no sense. We can continue to have storage with the additional storage. We can have the desalting or the de-icing in that long building. And one of the very positive effects of this configuration is any concern that salt dust would spray is now eliminated because there would be a complete barrier to the gardens. And, as I talked to the gardeners who I included around the table, the gardens are planted in a waste dump. So we're going to do everything we can to protect them from the salt, but I'm not sure what we can do about the leaching that probably is going on in that property right now. And all you have to do is look at the wells that Gordon Foods has placed in the next lot, just west of the animal shelter. I really know that everybody wants indoor soccer, 4,000, 5,000, 8,000. It depends on, what sport you're talking to. And I'm just not sure a 13,000 square foot facility is going to take care of all the poor, obese black children and white children who need indoor exercise in the winter. It's just not the right size. I would suggest that if a for-profit operator came along, wanted to buy the property and put it on the tax rolls and provide a real, maybe even expand the recycling center, then we could talk business, because that would be adding something to Evanston, not taking away. We either have to do something at this location that saves the city money, for example, a retrofitted salt storage facility, or put it on the tax rolls, one of the two. To take it off for a not-for-profit to have an indoor soccer and baseball, that, while there are plenty of children that's going to provide for, it's not going to provide for the majority of the community. I mean, I'm certainly not going to benefit from it. I talked to Alderman Braithwaite earlier. What about if you really want to spur economic development, and the argument is being made by the indoor sports facility people that this will enhance economic development on Oakton? Well, anybody who goes to PetSmart, Aldi's, and to Home Depot, or even tries to get gas in the middle of the day at the Shell station knows that that section of Oakton's doing really well. And I don't think the establishment of an indoor soccer facility is going to really add much to that. But I spoke to Alderman Braithwaite earlier. There is an area in Evanston that is in desperate need of enhancement, and that is the Dodge and Dempster Shopping Center, where we have an enormous space formerly used by Frank's Nursery and Crafts, in addition to the adjacent space that was A.J. Wright, and then the space that was going to be taken by the company that never even, developed. They went out of business before they came. There's at least 13,000 square feet there. There's plenty of parking. There's probably absolutely no need for rezoning there. And with the $4,000 that really is only going to be of very minor help to the city of Evanston in relocating storage, that $4,000, I am certain Foresight is going to be thrilled to know they could get as rent. So I think there are other locations. I'm thinking maybe there could be a partnership with the golf course people and build a building to spec. I just think we are making a horrible municipal policy mistake by giving away a public building when we have a use for the public building. Unlike some of the arguments, the building is not vacant. It is not unused. It is very much used, and it is not vacant. It might not be a recycling center anymore. That was an economic decision. And an economic decision to give away this property is the wrong decision. Absolutely the wrong decision.
Alderman Holmes.
Mr. Griffin, did you say that Public Works would be coming with some kind of presentation? Yes. So just process-wise, help me understand then, if we'd be taking action on this tonight, what would be the sense of them coming to make a presentation to us? I'm not getting it. Am I misunderstanding?
We wanted just to give you the background of the three scenarios to frame that discussion. There's a couple of discussions that needs to go further, including the salt dome discussion.
I understand, but I mean, if we were going to take action on this tonight, and
Alderman Holmes, members of the council, we're looking at several other sites for the salt dome.
It's not even a matter. I mean, I don't care what's happening. I'm just talking about process-wise. Why would we, if this is option C in three scenarios, and we haven't gotten all the information, I'm assuming if they're going to come and make a presentation to us.
Well, if the council chose to take this property and do something else with it, then that comes off our list as potential salt dome.
Okay.
But there are other locations. I believe this is the only one we own, correct? The other locations we're looking at are either property owned by other government entities or private property. Is that correct? So if the council this evening were to take action for use other than this municipal facility, then when you see us next to talk about salt domes, it wouldn't be on the list.
It wouldn't be on the list.
But there'd be other properties for the council to consider.
Wow.
Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. And we're not giving the property away. It's a lease with the organizations to provide a certain amount of funds to the city. If the suggestion is that other landlords would be thrilled to get $4,000 a month, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't at least be pleased to get $3,000 or $4,000 a month. And if this were developed into a commercial space, we do not have anyone who's interested or knocking at the door to take this space. We have a lot of empty, vacant space in the city. We have the Dempster Dodge location. We have a location on Oakton. If we develop this for commercial space, we're basically directly competing with those vacant spaces. So if you ask me, what we're doing is we're contributing to the decay of those unused spaces, and I don't want to be competing with those spaces. If there's someone who's interested in coming to town, they can go up the road on and take one of those other, to me, very reasonable and appropriate alternatives. So I think what the groups have come up with is an excellent idea. I don't think anyone's suggesting that that this space is going to solve all of the. And I'll just take issue with the characterization, and I don't even want to repeat what's already been said about the kids. But this meets the goals that we were just talking about. This gets kids involved. This provides a place for children to go and participate in a constructive activity in the winter months. This keeps kids off the streets. This keeps kids active. And this is what we're trying to accomplish. The mayor's desire to move youth engagement up the list, this helps accomplish that. This will engage thousands of kids. This isn't for the privileged. These organizations provide scholarships. Kids aren't turned away. Anybody who wants to participate is given a chance to participate. And it's an impediment to the kids who want to do something. The fees are covered, but not every kid has an opportunity to have someone transport them to Highland Park or Palatine or the places that they have to go. And it's more appropriate to have a location here in town where these kids can participate and have an opportunity that they otherwise are not going to have. And that's why I think this is so important. And so I would like to move that the staff prepare the appropriate map amendment to allow the use of this property as an indoor sports or recreation facility, and that the city manager be authorized to negotiate with the Sports Coalition for the lease of the recycling center.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Wait, my light is on.
All right, Alderman Rainey, your light is on. You're right.
First of all, that we are handling this in this manner, where I believe that many of the members of the council have not had the opportunity to delve into all the various issues. It just feels so irresponsible to give away. A lease forever is a giveaway. I'm sorry. If they wanted to negotiate for the purchase, then maybe we could have some discussion. But I'm not even sure that the city is able to just vote to lease a building to somebody without some process that takes place. I feel very desperate right this minute that Public Works is going to be denied the opportunity to move forward with plans for this location. If anybody has driven by this place in the last few months, you have seen it is overloaded with equipment and stuff that we have no place else to put. And $4,000, our staff has told us, is inadequate to replace the storage location. Probably around $9,000 is going to be necessary. And when I'm talking about going to Dempster Dodge, I'm talking about this sports idea to lease space at Dempster Dodge. That's what I'm talking about. Just like we have Dance Center at Dempster Dodge, have the sports facility. I'm not talking about leasing this location to commercial space. That was not my idea, as a matter of fact. But I think it's a city-owned property, and it ought to be used by the city. You can talk about providing, space for children in the winter. We provide for hundreds of sports opportunities in this town, literally hundreds, maybe even 1,000. So don't even imply that we're shortchanging the youth in our community, because we are not. We are just not. And this isn't going to take the place of everything we don't do, because I think we do plenty. So once you give this up, you will never get it back. And I would really like to hear from our legal counsel if we can just decide at a moment's notice to lease a city-owned property without giving everybody an opportunity to lease it. You might be right. You're a lawyer, but I know that if we're going to sell a property, I think we have to open it up to the public. Just saying.
Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alderman Wilson, but your motion was not to approve a specific lease. It was simply to direct staff to negotiate a lease that would come back then, I'm assuming, to council for ultimate approval. So this is not the first, it'll be the first but not the last time that this issue comes back to council?
That was correct. My motion was to authorize the city manager's office to negotiate.
Alderman Holmes. Yes.
Isn't it my understanding that our staff doesn't put together map amendments, that any matter that has to have a map amendment is referred to the Plan Commission?
Would you like to answer that, Mr. Farrar?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, with respect to the leasing issue, that's an Article 11 question under the municipal code that I think as part of the general direction, the law department would fully vet and research and give the council the appropriate legal advice regarding that. Regarding the map amendment and the zoning issue, as I sit here today on the cuff here, I don't have the answer in front of me in the municipal code. I would have to research that as well.
But oftentimes the governing body can initiate an amendment, even if it's not specifically authorized. It's usually a standard practice. So
that is correct.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with the motion should it pass, that we would take that as direction as a city-sponsored amendment.
Thank you. Alderman Holmes.
I really don't have any preference for the space, but I am having a whole lot of problems with the process. I'm very uncomfortable with this. I'd really like to be able to hear the presentation from Public Works, because I see that as a part. And maybe that shouldn't have been said, because, I get stuck on stuff, and I'm really stuck on that. And I would just like for us to, if we could hold it until at least till we hear that, then I'm ready to listen to anything. So I want to be on record. I'm not preferring one over the other. I just don't think that it's fair to move ahead without hearing what our city staff has to say about what it is that they propose. And I would just like to be able to hear that. And maybe that shouldn't have been in the recommendation, and I wouldn't have gotten stuck on it. But I heard it, so therefore I'm stuck. So I'm very uncomfortable, and I'm not ready to move ahead.
Alderman Rainey.
I'd like to hear from the city manager, who included in our packet a memo regarding his preference for this location.
Madam Mayor, Alderman Rainey, I expressed an opinion as your city manager. From time to time, I think it's important that I share that opinion with you. However, I do not have a vote on this council. So I expressed the opinion. I feel that the council's heard the presentations from the committee. Clearly, there are issues. I think it is not an incompatible option, but certainly I've had my piece, and we'll look to your direction.
Well, as chairman of the committee, I would appreciate your giving us a verbal explanation of your position, because I thought it was rather short and not very developed. So if you could just elaborate on your memo, that would be helpful for me.
And if I may, Madam Mayor, members of the council, maybe we could just bring up the slide of that. Or actually, if you could bring up, Curtis, at the very beginning, there's the larger aerial of the area. Yeah, there you go. So, I'll get the lights. And Alderman Rainey, members of the council, I don't know that there's a lot of very detailed analysis here, other than if you look at the area, it is across from one of our largest retail shopping centers in the community. It is next to a parcel that is going to be developed. The animal shelter, which we've not talked a lot about this evening, I think everyone feels committed to making sure that there's an appropriate location and facility for our animal shelter, but there's certainly nothing about its existing location where we could not find someplace else in our community or perhaps even in an adjacent community. So if you free up that space, 15,000 square feet is about the amount of square feet that every retailer that we're talking to that's a national retailer is looking to have. So if it frees up that much retail space, has sufficient parking, is located adjacent to other retail activity in our community, I think it is just an issue that should be seriously considered. The property would go back on the tax roll. It would generate sales tax revenue. If it were a different parcel, perhaps there'd be a different recommendation. I understand there are community standards and community quality of life issues at play here, but I felt important enough, and I don't recall another time in my 2+ years as your city manager where I've actually written sort of an opinion memo on a subject, but I felt strongly that it was something that should at least be considered by the council. And again, that's ultimately your decision.
Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could we go to option B, which is the one the city manager was talking about? So the option B does not call for a salt dome on the property.
That's correct. It would only be a commercial use.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that you feel that there are other appropriate areas to relocate the salt dome if we decide to do that.
I do, because again, and when you look at that area, it needs to be accessible for city forces, but does not need to be accessible to the public. You look at Oakton as certainly one of our major corridors in the community. I think if there are other places to put this, and again, this is a facility that will have, climate change notwithstanding for quite a while. I think if it can be more enclosed or away from major thoroughfares, and again we've looked. I think there's 2 additional sites that we're looking at in addition to the Oakton site. Does that sound about right? So there are those other sites we've looked at now, rather than the one larger facility, looking at 2 others. And I think while it's not the optimal situation, certainly it's very workable. Again, I think this is just an important piece of property. Whatever the use you determine, it's an important property and certainly deserves this kind of discussion.
Right. On that basis, I think I feel comfortable not hearing more information about the salt dome, since the city manager's recommendation was that it be eliminated as a possibility for this site.
Alderman Rainey.
Well, one of the advantages of doing option B is that you could then pay for the relocation of the animal shelter, pay additional for the relocation of the animal shelter, as well as the salt dome, because that property would obviously be sold to commercial. We would never lease it.
Alderman Tandem.
Alderman Rainey just answered one of my questions about relocation, actually the logistics of relocating the animal shelter if we're actually waiting on a purchaser for this, just how that unfolds and how we exist. Is there a time that we won't have an animal shelter in the interim period?
Alderman Nguyen.
Given the nature of the discussion that we've just had, I call the question.
All right, we have before us Alderman Wilson's motion. Would you like to restate your motion?
I move that an appropriate map amendment for use of the recycling facility as an indoor sports and recreation facility be prepared and directed to the Plan Commission, and whatever appropriate procedures are necessary to effectuate the map amendment, and that we authorize the city manager's office to negotiate with the sports coalition, the name of which I don't recall off the top of my head, for purposes of just negotiating a lease for the recycling center.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
That was 2 to 6. I know. Said 2. Oh, all right. Alderman Holmes voted no. So the motion passes.
And what, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
What about the information I've asked for about the process of leasing a city-owned facility without?
I think our city attorney.
Without public advertising?
I believe our attorney will research that for us.
And he'll do that before we start writing up leases and?
We will come back to the council if we foresee a problem. We'll come back immediately. If not, we will come back with a full explanation with either a status report or a draft lease for the council's consideration.
Thank you for reminding us of that, Alderman Rainey. City Manager, are we going to try to do the Frank Govern Memorial Golf Course?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to. Madam Mayor, members of the council, as you all recall, several months ago, the City Council adopted Resolution 37R11, expressing legislative findings regarding the status of the Frank Govern Memorial Golf Course and our sublease with the Evanston Wilmette Golf Course Association. That resolution was adopted on June 13th. Since then, staff has been working with the Board of Directors of the Golf Association to address the various issues that were raised by the resolution, and let me just briefly read the 3 points. One was that staff would evaluate the terms and conditions of the existing sublease between the city and the association to determine if conditions exist for termination of the sublease and report back to the City Council on September 1. If conditions do exist for termination, staff recommends that determination would occur on December 31. Number 2, the City Council would hold in abeyance past due water service charges and withhold future charges through December 31. And then the City Manager and the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services would investigate costs associated with maintaining the golf course property as open space parkland, and also investigate other uses if the golf facility as it's currently configured was not able to continue. We've been working with them since then. We believe that significant progress has been made and that terminations do not exist for the termination of the sublease. Their water charges continue to accumulate, and as the staff report indicates, are currently almost $18,000. We believe that since there are several issues pending with the Golf Course Association, and a memorandum from Mr. Lasasso is on page 94 of the packet, which outlines some of them, we would ask that the council receive this report, and it would be our intention to come back at your December 12th meeting with another update and a recommendation as to the disposition of the existing water charges as well as future water charges. Be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Alderman Rainey.
City Manager, what do you anticipate the water bill to be when we finally come to a conclusion on this matter?
Well, we're asking to come back to you in December. The bill was almost $18,000, and that was, I believe, through the first part of August. So I think there will be a few $1,000s more conceivably added. So my guess would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 by the end of the calendar year. So that would be what would be owed at that time, approximately.
And what is exact? I read the memo, of course, and I'm not exactly sure what we're going to have to know going forward to embrace the continuation of the current status of the golf course.
Well, as Mr. Lasasso mentions in his memorandum, there's a number of issues that are currently pending. One is their intention to begin a capital improvement drive for the course. One is a contract with a concessionaire to operate a restaurant on the location. And the third are continuing discussions regarding the potential sublease or a project that would work between the Golf Course Association and another vendor for golf-related operations.
So in order to see the results of any of that, it'll probably be another year, right? I mean,
well, and Alderman Rainey, I think that we should know over the next 60 days how those various scenarios will be unfolding. I think if they are unfolding it would make sense for us to look at a scenario where either the water would be forgiven for one more year or some sort of payment plan be put in place. If for some reason those scenarios do not occur, I think then an entirely different discussion needs to happen, and that is to kind of go back to where we were back in June to look at our options as far as maintaining the property budgeting, potentially some money in the 2012 budget for that eventuality. In talking with Mr. Lasasso, Mr. Gainer's here and serves on the board of the Golf Association. Certainly since the council's last discussion of this topic in June, some fairly significant changes have happened at the golf course. They have taken a new look at management. There is a new set of leaders on the day-to-day operations of the golf course. They have had a number of very successful promotions this summer. I think the weather has largely been supportive despite some pretty awful storms. By and large, I think we've seen less continuous days of rain, so they've had more golf days at the course. So clearly, all of that taken together, the course and its operations in much better place than it was several months ago. So as the one who came to the council sort of raising the red flags initially, I guess I've come back to the council to say that I'm at least satisfied that there's been some progress made, perhaps more progress that has been seen in a number of years, and would ask the council's indulgence until the first part of December to make any decisions regarding the water for 2012 and beyond.
Does that answer everyone's questions? All right.
So, Madam Mayor, unless there's further direction, we'll plan on coming back at your December 12th meeting with a further status report and then recommendations as to the disposition of the water charges.
All right. With everything else being discussed on the 10th, that brings us to call of the wards. What else do we have?
The special meeting.
We haven't. I mean, certainly people can make whatever announcements they would like.
Alderman Rainey,
But
call of the wards.
I thought we didn't do it on
All
special.
right.
meeting.
Does anyone want to make any
I don't
announcements?
want
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey,
to. Aye.
Alderman Fisk, Alderman Braithwaite, Alderman Nguyen,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
Alderman Holmes, Alderman Tindem, Alderman Grover.
Aye, thank you.